Live from the KIJU studios in beautiful Ogasawara, this is the Monster Island Film Vault, episode 65, Mothra vs. Godzilla, featuring Daniel DiManna. Hello, kaiju lovers, and welcome to the Monster Island Film Vault, a podcast seeking entertainment and enlightenment through tokusatsu. I am your host, Monster Island's film curator, Nate Marchand, and with me today, besides you, Jimmy, you just got to inject yourself every time we do that before I get to the guest. But at least this is a guest that you don't have a sordid history with this time. Oh, zip your lip. Come on, let's maintain good relations with my friends, okay? I don't need you picking fights with everybody. Anyway, joining me today as we continue Godzilla Redux is the author and creator of the Godzilla Novelization Project and my GFest co-panelist, one of the first friends I ever made in the Godzilla and tokusatsu and kaiju fandom, really, Daniel DiManna.
That's me, folks. How you guys doing? And how are you doing, Nate? It's been a while since I've been here.
Yeah, well, the last time you were here, that was an experience that was an experience. Yeah, to say the least. That's an experience I try to block out of my memory. Although apparently,
I was totally into it.
Well, what?
I was totally into it. You know, I like me some Yeti. I will totally.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
I guess you did, but
I'm weird.
From what
like that.
From what I have heard, it's been a very popular episode. All the tourists on the island thought it was one of my benchmark episodes. So I'm like, oh, that's great. Totally planned. Yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, happy accident. It was a little uncomfortable while we were doing it. What with the what's his name? The guy who was getting drunk. W something. What's his name? WHG?
Yeah, something.
WHG.
Yeah.
I was just calling him. I was going to start calling him Willie for short. Willie 3.
Yeah.
Big Willie 3.
Yeah, Big Willie 3.
Willie 3. If you're listening right now.
I think we just gave him. Of course, Jimmy, you would know. Apparently, you were into gangster rap. That's a little detail I keep forgetting. So we just came up with his rapper name, I guess.
Big Willie 3.
Big Willie 3.
It was an unusual episode to record, but
being held hostage to watch the only kaiju movie out of Canada, which really isn't out of Canada, it's out of Italy, but it was made in Canada. I don't know who can claim that movie. I don't know who wants to claim that movie.
I'll take it.
But
I'll take it.
Well, you can't because apparently Kino Lorber is releasing it on Blu-ray again.
Yes, well, the first release was from somebody else, but yes, Kino is doing a re-release. Apparently, it's the same transfer, like the really nice one on the Blu-ray. This is off topic, but yeah, I mean, all that to say, yes, it was a bit under duress. Big Willie 3 was a little bit he was very tipsy. I couldn't quite figure out what accent was real, but at the end of the day, it was fun, and I actually did just re-listen to the recording of that wasn't live just a few days ago, and it was fun to relive.
I suppose. Although the funny thing is that guy's just been freeloading around here for the last couple of months, and now I'm hearing rumors that he's going to open a business on the island. I'm not 100% sure what he's planning on doing, but apparently he's in a drunken stupor because something that I didn't tell anybody because I was too embarrassed to bring it up is on April 1st of all days, dude hijacked my studio. He hijacked KIJU and tried to take over the show again.
Really?
Yeah, that was weird. I didn't want anyone outside of the tourists here on the island to hear it, but let's just say I'm losing the negotiations about that recording being released.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna lie. If it gets released, I'm gonna listen to it. I under protest, but I'm kind of an MIFE completionist, so I have to listen to every episode. So yeah, I mean, if you were to look around my my collection, my kaiju collection cave back in Ohio, you would know that I am a completionist when it comes to my monster stuff. That's my thing. Also, before we move on, I would like to personally thank you for inviting me on for an episode where you're not losing your mind over the movie.
It's been a while where that's happened, hasn't it? Actually, trying to think here. I think the last one that you were on where I wasn't losing my mind was actually your first appearance.
Yes, because then after that you had me come on for Super Monster, and I don't want to dredge up bad memories for you there. Then I came on for Yeti.
I've met Space Woman Kalara. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman. But
yeah, did you? I listened to the rebroadcast of that one too. You didn't get to do your interview in that episode.
No, it happened later.
She just hung up. Yeah, it should happen later, but she just hung up.
Yeah, that is true.
But then I come on for Yeti, and if it's possible you lost your mind even more that time. And now we're coming on to talk about what, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead here, but I'm going to
we'll get to that. We'll get to that for sure. Yeah, for sure. I'm here
to talk about a classic this time.
Yes, an undisputed classic.
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy, no one cares about your opinion of that buried recording that should stay buried, that buried broadcast. No one cares. You just sit in that booth and do your job. Anyway.
And this time he's like, again, last time
what was that?
What?
It's your job to mock me. Of course it is. It's written somewhere in that contract.
Jimmy, like, we're off to a good start here. There's no need for that. And plus, this time, there's no silly bet between you and I, so you can chime in whenever you want.
That.
Yeah. By the way, the ride to the island on my new Pteranodon robot was smooth and satisfying.
I was wondering how you got here. And then I reminded myself, he has the Pteranodon bot. He doesn't need Jimmy. He doesn't need to call Jimmy on Uber to use Uber Mogra.
Ha, 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 ha. But he doesn't. He doesn't, because I have my own transportation.
Yeah. Well, you and Michael, because Michael has the rad bug now. It's just funny how it's like Jimmy is just giving things away from his garage to people. It's just nuts.
Listen, I'm going to have a thing going on where every time I leave Monster Island, I'm going to leave with something new that either Jimmy gives me or something else.
Because the collector-itis. It's collector-itis. The collector-itis is just another word for kleptomania. So you're just going to leave the island with something.
First of all, rude. And second of all, I do not steal things that I collect. But so far, the only time I've left the island without anything in hand is the King Kong episode. I left in the Super Monster episode with actually two things, because actually, again, going back, I explained how I totally fell off the robot and plummeted several hundred feet into the water. I never explained how I actually got to the island.
Oh.
Yeah. And that's because I actually don't know. I woke up on the beach, wet but alive. I was on the beach of the island. Everything was fine. And
so this was the last time. This was
the time when I was coming for Super Monster.
Super Monster, okay.
Yeah, this was the time I came for Super Monster before I trudged up and we recorded, and Jimmy and I had our little beef going on there. But I actually have no idea how I even got to the island. The only clue I have is that when I woke up, I had this little whistle thing in my hand. It kind of looked like a rocket ship. I'm not sure what it is. It reminds me of something. I feel like I've seen it before somewhere, but it's this weird little whistle thing, and I still have it. It's in my collection back at home, and if I ever figure out what it is, I'll let you know. And if you if there's like security footage of how I got to the beach, please let me know, because I'm curious about how I got there and didn't die, because the fall alone should have killed me.
Yeah, I'll talk to Captain Gordon, see if he knows.
Yeah, if he knows. Like, I mean, I've buried the hatchet. I'm not mad at Jimmy. We're bros again. Jimbo and I are on good terms. But now I'd like to know how I survived and why I'm still alive. But again, that's all, water, a lot of water under the bridge. Thank you. I earned that. And I got here on my nice Pteranodon robot. I installed a seatbelt. And I actually have an MP3 hookup now, so I can listen to previous MIFE episodes while I'm flying. It's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. I've also been catching up on... What was that? Yes, now that you mention it, I have been listening to the Power Trip as well.
Oh, yes, I'm getting... Sometimes multiple times. I've looked at the analytics.
Yes. It's a very, very re-listened-to-able show. That's not how you say that. I write for a living. Can't you tell? Oh boy.
Anyway.
Been a long. Anyway, we gotta jump right into this.
Yeah, we do. Today we are continuing Godzilla Redux. In fact, this is a little bit momentous because this was the first episode I ever recorded in my previous podcast life, and now I'm revisiting it. Oh, look how far I've come.
Look how far.
Yes, indeed. We're talking about Mothra versus Godzilla from 1964, Ooh. The original.
The original, the one and only. And oh boy.
Yeah. Considered by many to be the greatest of the Godzilla films. In fact, I found out doing some research that G-Fan magazine has done 2 reader polls to rank the Godzilla films. The first time that they did this, the first time they did it in 1996, it came in 6th place. When they did it again in 2014, it came in 2nd. Second only to Godzilla 54.
That is a ranking, and this comes from somebody who, I don't really, just a personal thing, I don't really get a lot of out of ranking the Godzilla movies intricately from 1 to, at the time of this recording, 36. But Godzilla 54 and Mothra versus Godzilla right next to each other at the top feels right to me.
I would
on a
agree
purely
with
objective
you.
level.
Yeah,
I think
and we'll get into that. That's a good point, Jimmy. In light of that, I need to let everybody know that we have a very special event going on later today. And Danny, I would love for you to join me on this.
Ooh, what's this all about?
Well, you've probably heard that Mothra recently laid a new egg.
Yes, and I actually flew over it.
Yes. Yes.
I'm so excited. I've always wanted to see Mothra's egg in person, and my gosh, the screen doesn't do it justice. It's much bigger in real life.
My friends from the Cellcast unfortunately fell into the cage and got a little bit gooey with it.
Yeah, that'll happen.
That'll happen. Yeah. But since Mothra lives on Monster Island now, as well as Mothra Leo for that matter, and there is not a Mothra currently on Infinite Island, the Shobajin with the biggest dudes from Infinite Island as their bodyguards due to recent events.
Yes, I don't blame them at all.
But they are supervising the moving of the egg onto a cargo ship that will then take the egg to Infinite Island, where it will remain. So
wow, that's awesome. I'm happy for the Infinite Islanders.
Yes, so there's going to be a big send-off for this later today. And as the host of the most popular radio show on Monster Island, it's also... Yes, Jimmy, I know. It's also the only one. But regardless, we are going to be there to cover that, and I would like you to join me, my pseudo-sister Jessica, as the head of tourism here, will be there as well, and Jimmy will be manning the cameras, and I do mean cameras because he's getting back into the drone business, and he's putting cameras on all of them to cover this momentous occasion.
That is so cool. I can't believe it. Yes, first of all, yes, I am absolutely going. Thank you so much. This is exciting. Mothra means a lot to me. Just as a person, I love every movie she's ever been in. And again, I'm going to gush about Mothra as we get into this episode.
Even the trilogy?
Especially I love the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy. What are you talking about?
Oh boy. Well,
I know. I have to turn in my fandom card for that.
No, I don't know about that. The only one of them that I think is all that good is the third one, and
the third one's really.
Yeah, and yes, Jimmy, I might have gotten the new sibling out of that one.
That's true. I actually haven't met Jessica yet either.
You haven't? How have you been here and not met my pseudo-sister?
I keep missing her. I mean, she wasn't here for a chunk of time, and then when I was here last time to talk about Yeti, I was imprisoned, so it was kind of, I don't know. I keep missing her, and she's a Mothra-themed magical girl. I feel like she and I would be friends. I totally have to meet her.
Yeah, just you'll have to just get over the fact that she's taller than you, but
why would that be a problem? I don't have that's not no.
Well,
bring it on.
Well, I guess I guess to a certain extent my pseudo-sister is used to looking down on people. No, Jimmy, I don't regret that.
Wow. Well, you and the animosity with the pseudo-sister, man. When are you gonna listen? we're on to you. I've been listening to your shows. I know that she means a lot more to you than you'd like to let on. Okay, you know what? You can keep up appearances. I won't shatter the facade, but I know everybody who's listening knows. We'll just leave it at that. But we know how much you really care.
Yeah, sure.
Deny it if you want, but anyway, yes. All that to say, I will be there.
Yes,
I will be there. I will be there.
So that's what we have going on later today. But before then, we got to talk about this movie. Like I said, one of the classics of the entire Godzilla franchise. But before we could do that, Danny, I need you, to the tune of some epic music, to give us the rundown on the story of this movie.
All right, here we go.
Lay down that plot synopsis.
It's plot synopsis time, everybody. Check it out. Pay attention. You're not going to want to miss this. So, in the year of our Lord, 1964, a massive typhoon sweeps into Japan, carrying a giant mass unseen under the waves and burying it under the silt of the beach. The next day, there's devastation everywhere and something else. A giant, colorful, Eastery kind of egg floating in the water. No one in Japan knows what it is, but the first people who find it decide that, of course, they're going to go super capitalist on it and exploit it. And when I say exploit, I mean they're going to build a theme park around it. These two criminal types, they see this thing and, they see dollar signs. But, of course, anybody who saw the original 1961 Mothra would know that that is Mothra's egg. And when she comes to try to get it back, the people who she's trying to get it back from are just not going for it. They want that egg, and ultimately she leaves empty-handed. But when that big mass that floated in and got buried in the sand reveals itself to be Godzilla, oh boy, now there's egg on the face of the people in Japan, and they have to go Thank you, I deserved that. So they have to go to Infant Island and literally beg for help from Mothra. And Mothra, even though it's debatable whether or not Japan deserves it, is the moral high ground in the situation and makes the decision to go and fight even though it will cost her her life. And cost her her life it does, unfortunately. But when the egg hatches and her two babies come out, they avenge their fallen mother. Godzilla is defeated, but not killed because, come on, he's Godzilla. And the two larvae and their beautiful Shobijin guardians swim back to Infant Island. The day saved, and we fade to black.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I'll be here all week. I'll be signing autographs. Tip your waitresses. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, beautiful. Just beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. It's like you've written a novelization of this.
At least I've started it. One of my favorite films on the face of the earth, Godzilla or otherwise. I adore this movie.
Yeah, well, and actually that reminds me, I don't know if you're familiar with the Japanese language novelization of this film, but I actually stumbled across a bit of interesting trivia from it.
There are some differences. Between the Japanese novelization, which came out in '84, I believe.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was released. Yeah, it was released much later because Mothra vs. Godzilla was one of the first films re-released back into theaters in the interim between Terror of Mechagodzilla and Godzilla '84 to kind of see what the interest was for Godzilla in the theatrical landscape. So they re-released it, I believe, in 1980.
Yes.
And the ticket
82.
sales...
It was 80 or 82.
80. I think it's 80. Don't quote me. It's either that or 82. Jimmy, you're on.
You gotta figure that out. He'll figure it out for you just in case.
Yeah, I don't have that number off the top of my head, but it actually ended up earning quite a bit of money. It was pretty popular. And as part of the marketing for the 84 film, they did release a novelization in Japanese of the film. And there are a couple, it's pretty close, but there are a couple differences.
Yeah, in this case, what I was going to bring up, do you remember the author's name, actually?
Actually, I do not recall the author's name. Oh, well, that's the publisher, Kodansha.
Oh, it is? Okay. I thought it was, I know that sounded like the publisher, but they did, the source I looked at, I think it was one of John's books, said that, it said that, it just said Kodansha's novelization.
Yep, that's the publisher.
Oh, see, you were right. It was 1980.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, and again, this continues our track record, or your track record, rather, of mentioning John LeMay in every episode.
Yeah, he gets cited in every single episode
because he's just that awesome.
John freaking LeMay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
darn straight he is.
Yeah, but in the Kodansha novelization, I wish I had the author's name now. It actually suggested an origin for Mothra.
Yes. Yeah, that was one of the differences.
It said it suggested that Mothra evolved on Infant Island due to years of abnormal climate change. You know, I think I like the Luminous Fairy's origin a little bit better.
as convoluted and crazy.
As convoluted as it is, I kind of love it. It's so
I love it.
Mythic, and then this one is just, she's a mutant.
She's a mutant. That's one of the differences. The other one that I always thought was interesting was it suggested that the island at the end, Iwa Island, has a nuclear plant on it. So there's the risk on top of the kind of spiritual battle and the ethic battle that's played out for the Japan's soul, basically. There's also this added layer of, oh no, if the nuclear power plant goes, then everything's gone. It'll take out a chunk of Japan, but that's not even suggested in the movie.
Yeah, but the thing is, this was released in a very momentous year in Japan. It's nuts.
1964.
For one thing, this was one of two Godzilla films. It's like they had to make up for not having one in 63. So like, here, two. And
don't forget Dogura also came out.
Dogura, yeah.
So
Toho had three kaiju films this year in 1964. I don't think anyone else was cranking out any kaiju films at the time. Toho was still the only game in town at this point. TV hadn't even really kicked in yet. This is before Ultra Q on TV. It's before Ultraman. Toho was still the king of tokusatsu at this point.
There were a few things out there, but yeah, at that point the kaiju boom was still by the time this movie came out, it was in April, so the kaiju boom was about a little over a year and a half away when Ultra Q dropped.
Basically.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it a little bit more, just to kind of put it into, or maybe we could talk about let's talk about it now. Let's talk about it now, just to put this year into perspective. I'm going to break from tradition a little bit here. But we also had the 1964 Olympics, which were in Tokyo. That was a huge, huge, huge deal.
Oh, it was massive.
Yeah, we could spend an entire episode just talking about the 64 Olympics. It was such a huge deal. It was the first Olympics in Asia. It was the first Olympics that were televised internationally. And it helped to disperse the post-war malaise of the Japanese national spirit at the time, thanks to the war.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in a lot of ways, it was kind of the end of the post-surrender era for Japan. And it was Japan basically rejoining. I mean, joining the UN in the mid-50s was a big deal, with Japan rejoining the international community. This was this basically solidified it, because Japan got to really showcase its culture in this. And
very much so.
There were some notable things that happened during this. So you had Yoshinori Sakai, who was a 400-meter runner, and he was the torch bearer. And he lit the torch at the opening ceremony. There were 60,000 foreign visitors to Japan. They even gave out a pamphlet that was called "What Foreigners Are Like." Of course, they still have copies of that they hand out on the island.
I'd like to see one of those, if for no other reason than, the collection that I have.
Yeah, but, they're probably full of fake news. Oh, sure, Jimmy, disagree, but whatever. And they learn to say things in English like, "May I help you?"
I've been to Japan, and I have been asked, "May I help you?" by people.
They also learned about urban society as well. And Japan did very well at those games. So, this was also the first time that they had judo as a sport. And
I didn't know that.
Yes, 1964. And naturally, Japan took the gold. Naturally.
Yes,
and the Japanese women's volleyball team made it to the final against Soviet Russia.
And
do you want to know who won? It was not the Soviets, unfortunately.
So I guess by process of elimination, it would be. I'm stumped.
Yeah, it would be Japan. Japan beat the Soviets. Yeah, we all love making a big deal about the Soviets. We all make a big deal about the American hockey team in 1980 beating the Soviets. Well, the Japanese beat the women's volleyball team. This from Soviet Russia.
There you go. That was, and it was just huge. Like you said, it was a moment where Japan effectively kind of rejoined the world in a different way. Not so much political. There's a lot of politics involved with the Olympics.
Oh,
but
of course.
It was like a bridge between the political return to the world and the pop cultural explosion that would come.
Yeah.
And that was already starting to happen. And somewhere in the middle there is the Olympics. Somewhere in the middle there is sport. If you think about it, it's like the perfect intersection between geopolitical affairs and pop culture. Right in the middle of sports.
Yeah. Because it was such a huge moment for Japan. It's too bad we couldn't have been there. That must have been crazy. They had it was the 2020 Olympics in 2021. That was a huge deal. You should have that was the only thing that was on the TVs here on Monster Island that entire fortnight.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. But this wasn't without its pitfalls. They didn't have enough public space. It was overcrowded. They didn't have enough facilities for sports venues or roads. And tragically, 100 workers died doing construction for the games, and 2,000 were injured.
Wow. I actually didn't know that number. At least I forgot it.
Yeah.
I did not know. 2,000 people.
It was horrible. Insane. It's horrible, and it's insane. Yeah.
It's I don't even know what to say.
So think about that. We had Toho pumping out 3 kaiju films plus the Olympics.
Yeah.
And the economic miracle is in full swing at this point. And this movie commentates on that. Not quite to the extent that King Kong versus Godzilla does, but good grief, does it comment on this?
Oh, it's in the DNA of...
it is very much in the DNA. Yeah, but another
absolutely.
thing that's also in the DNA of this movie that I'm sure was in the minds of the filmmakers, and that is Typhoon Vera.
Oh, yeah. This is a movie. There are a couple of other, notable kaiju movies, including the... Well, I don't want to say remake, but the kind of sort of remake. The
pseudo remake.
Yeah, Godzilla versus Mothra 92 opens with a typhoon as well. But this one, it's pretty crazy. We'll actually talk about the moment in the movie when we get to the movie in a second.
Yes, but just to put it into perspective, Typhoon Vera, that was a Category 5 hurricane. They're called hurricanes when it's the Atlantic. They're called typhoons in the Pacific.
That's right.
Yeah, that struck Japan twice in 1959. It hit once and then came back around and hit them again. It's insane.
Japan, and I say this with all the love in the world, Japan cannot catch a break.
No.
Earthquakes, typhoons. It is like
kaiju.
It is kaiju. It is such a and excluding the real kaiju out there, the kaiju in the movies, there's this very, very real parallelism going on. So many monsters come out of the ocean or come out from underneath the earth in these films, and there's a lot of
that doesn't take a rocket
scientist.
Even in ancient Western cultures, it was always understood that that the mysterious, scary things came from the ocean because it's big and nobody knows anything about it and they can't explore it, or they come up from the earth,
Here there be monsters. Here there be
monsters, yes. But just to show you, not only was it a Category 5 that hit Japan twice, it killed 4,000 people.
Oh my gosh.
Making it number 10 on the top 10 deadliest typhoons in the Pacific. Admittedly, some of this info might be a little out of date. I'm not sure. It cost $600 million in damages, which would be equivalent to $4.93 billion in 2016. So it's probably more like $10 billion at this point with inflation.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's probably $10
billion being what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have crunched the numbers on that just to find out.
You should have. Hey, Jimmy, you might want to pick up the slack on that one.
Fine. We'll put it in the blog. All right. And then there were localized outbreaks of dysentery, and it wasn't Oregon Trail. I don't know if I should be making jokes about this or not, but
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Maybe
as well as tetanus and gangrene in the aftermath.
Lovely. Great.
Due to inundation. Lieutenant General Robert Whitney Burns ordered all available U.S. servicemen stationed in Japan to take part in typhoon relief efforts. The USS Kearsarge, I hope I said that right, was dispatched to Nagoya. Oh, that has some connections to this movie, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Yeah, to assist in relief efforts. This was an opportunity to show the alliance between the countries. That's a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Japan is really big on the alliance. This was a major setback to post-war Japan's economy, which is kind of interesting because this is 1959 before the economic miracle kicked into high gear. The Japanese pearl industry lost $15 million over the course of 2 to 3 years, driving up costs by 20%.
Somewhere Fuji from Ultraman is weeping.
And those Ama pearl divers.
Yeah, that's right. All the pearl divers.
All those blue pearls, man. We'll never find them.
Which means Ishiro Honda is also crying somewhere, too.
Yes. I'm sure. He probably cried over a lot of things.
I imagine so.
Yeah.
And, it suddenly got very unfunny there for a second.
Yeah, it did. This prompted the 1961 passage of the Disaster Countermeasures Basic Act, the, quote, cornerstone of legislation on disaster risk reduction in Japan, end quote. The act established the Central Disaster Prevention Council, which coordinates disaster risk reduction. The legislation also mandated an annual disaster prevention plan to be submitted to the Japanese parliament yearly. And September 1st was established as a National Disaster Prevention Day. Yes, Jimmy. It's always fun when that rolls around here on the island.
Jimmy, you're really jumping in a lot. Maybe we should have done a... let's see if Jimmy can keep his trap shut for the whole episode. I'm kidding, Jimmy.
I think it's because you're here. He feels... I don't know what it is. You guys have like this weird connection. I'm not sure what it is, but whenever you're here, he feels like he has to pipe in a little bit more.
And you know what? I mean, all teasing aside, I'm fine with that. Jimbo and I have a thing going on. Like I think we kind of get each other in a way. So yeah. And I owe him after the last one because I mean, honestly, I haven't sat and heard Jimmy in a while. Again, Super Monster, he didn't talk a lot.
He didn't talk a lot, and Jimmy was kind of unconscious for
Yes, until he Kirk food. Yes. Big Willie 3 right in the back of the neck.
Yeah. And then finally, before the last point I have about Typhoon Vera is it possibly, we already talked about this. It possibly inspired the typhoon at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah, so and now we've arrived.
We've come full circle. Let's talk about this. Since I've already mentioned, let's talk about the start of this. You want to talk about starting a tokusatsu movie on a bang.
Oh, yeah.
You've got a good tokusatsu movie when even the credits have incredible special effects.
It blows my mind every time I see it. The combination, and this is not the last time I will evoke the name of Akira Ifukube during this recording.
Yeah, that's the thing. This movie has basically the entire Showa era creative team firing on all cylinders.
Oh, tell me about
this movie doesn't really break any new ground as far as Godzilla films go. But everything it does is done to near perfection.
This is something I have said many times over the years, mostly to myself in the mirror alone. No, I'm just kidding. This is something that I've
for a second.
It did. This is something, bad jokes aside, this is something I've talked about for years, something that I fully believe, and that is that Mothra versus Godzilla is the Goldfinger of the Godzilla series. At least even if you just want to encapsulate the phrase Godzilla series within the Showa era, those first 15 movies, those first, the first basically 2 decades in a pinch, this is the one where, again, it doesn't necessarily break new ground. It doesn't do a lot of things that the previous movies didn't do. It's got the funny moments. It's got the moments of gravity. It's got all of these things that the previous 3 movies had tinkered with to varying degrees of presence. But this movie takes every single one of those elements, from the directing to the cinematography to the music to the effects to the acting to the characters to the script to the suit acting to the optical effect, all of the effects, to the way that all of those things are married, to the plot, to the everything clicks and everything shines. It shines so beautifully in this film. And yes, I am going to be unapologetically gushy about this movie as we go through it. But it's hard to
unfortunately,
deny.
Jun Tazaki never at any point said, "No, Mr. Zilla, I expect you to die."
He would have been the one to say it too. Or either that or Kenji Sahara as Torahara. He would have, because that man. We're going to get to him in a minute, but man, what a slime ball.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Rifle and Gotocheski in their Honda biography said that this film had the spirit of Godzilla 54, the bright fantasy of Mothra 61, and the monster battles of King Kong versus Godzilla. So it just kind of wrapped it all, just rolled it all up into one.
Yeah, they took all of those elements, they put them together, and they took them all, they bumped them up on the quality level noticeably. And those previous movies are all great.
And it makes sense. They probably looked at just the gobs of money that King Kong versus Godzilla made. And they're like, how can we do this again? Well, at least you do another crossover.
They almost did Frankenstein.
Yeah, they almost did Frankenstein. Again, go listen to episode 5 with John. Did I say that already? I think I did.
You did not. You did not say that.
I should mention this. There's a lot of things that led to the creation of this movie, some of which John and I talked about in episode 5. So you should go back and listen to that. That was on unmade Godzilla films related to King Kong versus Godzilla. So,
there's a lot.
Yeah,
there's a lot of too much to get into here, but
so go back and listen to that. And so they considered Frankenstein, but then they decided, how about instead of pan out the nose for an outside monster, because boy howdy, we paid a lot of money for Kong.
let's hire from it within this time. Shall we?
Let's do this internally. Oh, we have Mothra. That was a big hit a few years ago. Let's have Mothra and Godzilla in a movie. It's a natural
pairing.
Was
it. It was natural, and it was the first time that it was obviously Godzilla's second crossover, but it was the first time. This movie in a way has a kind of Frankenstein meets the Wolfman feel to it, where it's the first time that some of the disparate monsters that were produced by the single studio came together in one film and linked the continuities. And this movie
although they did downgrade Mothra's size in this movie.
Oh, they made her a lot. They made her like a third as big. Her 61 version is still, I think still to this day, the 61 version is the biggest version that Toho has done of the character. Either that or it's tied with Final Wars. I'm not sure, but the 61 version is massive. I don't know. Maybe she got old and shrank.
Rest in peace, Flaming Mothra.
Rest in peace. Well, if you believe the end credits, she survives and flies home.
Well, that's because she always survives or has a baby.
Wait a minute. What are you talking about?
Or has a baby.
About the same Mothra?
I was going to say, or has a baby or something.
Yeah, there's always something. And again, I'm definitely, when we get to that part of it, I have some things to say as well. But yeah, Mothra, this is a sequel to Mothra and a sequel to King Kong versus Godzilla. It's a point where the two, the fork in the road meets into one road. Mm-hmm. And then in the next one, Rodan gets pulled in, and then Destroy All Monsters makes things confusing. But
what are you talking about? It's the movie about my workplace. Okay,
it's just true. Hey, no. You're not gonna catch me saying nasty things about Destroy All Monsters. Don't worry. I love that movie too. But anyway, this is a good one. In terms of the way that they paid attention to the continuity, Rolisica was supposed to be in this movie.
Yeah, Rolisica was supposed to be in it. Godzilla was going to attack that and then go to Japan. And the larvae weren't in it originally from some of the early work that I saw. But Mothra was going to use webbing, which is kind of funny that adult Mothra never uses webbing until King of the Monsters 2019.
Yeah.
Okay.
It took a hot sec. But there's
just kind of funny. There was also going to be a point where our 3 main characters, who are always going to be a reporter, a photographer, and a scientist, because we had characters like that in Mothra. There's actually a lot of crossover. I wouldn't be surprised if at one point the characters from Mothra are supposed to be in this.
There is a theory, because if you like Akira Takarada, the late great Akira Takarada.
I was going to say I was wondering if you were going to need a moment, because
no, I when we talk more about him, I might need to take a knee. I'm still all kinds of messed up over that. I miss him terribly, but
there's several in here who are terribly missed.
Oh, they're almost
Koizumi.
Koizumi. I mean, we'll cover them all as we get to them.
But anyway,
his character's name is Sakai.
Yeah, well, there's the theory is that it was supposed to be Frankie Sakai.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I've never seen any proof for that. That's a theory.
It's a theory, but it's an interesting theory. But they were gonna. So yes, there was gonna be could have been the characters from Mothra. We don't know. And their one other major difference is that in an earlier draft of the script, they were actually going to offer themselves as hostages, and that's what persuades the Islanders and Mothra to intervene on Japan's behalf, I should say. And I have to say, I think what we got was actually a heck of a lot better. Even though I see merit in that version as well.
There's a logic to that idea. There's a logic to, well, we'll just stay here and be hostages, but it completely removes this element of Mothra being the moral high ground in this instance.
You could argue that she's morally and spiritually superior to everybody in this.
I completely agree with that. She's on a different plane when it comes to her capabilities for compassion and forgiveness. The Islanders don't think anything of it. They're like, of course Mothra's not going to help you. That's ridiculous. But
they're honestly kind of heartless in this. The Islanders, but the thing is that even at their worst, they're not looking for revenge necessarily. Mothra doesn't seek revenge, but they are very interested in justice.
They're very interested in justice, but the thing about the Islanders is that there is a heartless element to it. But from their perspective, the outsiders dropped bombs on their island. And they're justified.
The interesting thing is, I don't know if you've ever read The Apocalypse Then by Mr. Bogue, but he had some interesting comments about that and how there's some subtle differences between the dub and the sub for this regarding that. And it's kind of fascinating, as I know when we did our little memorial stream for Mr. Takarada, you brought up the English dub version of the big speech at the end. Yes. But what makes this interesting is that Miura, the scientist, he does say they tested nukes on Infant Island, which is closer to saying that the Americans did it than any of the previous movies did.
They got a little braver.
Yeah. And then Junko actually mentions that she somehow feels responsible for what happened to the island.
She is assuming responsibility for mankind.
Yeah. And Sakai says that anti-nuclear demonstrations don't make news anymore, which is interesting to think about that.
Yeah.
But when they get there and they meet the Islanders just lump everybody outside. Japan, America, everybody. All the outsiders are linked together in their eyes. And I kind of want to say, is that like a little bit of a commentary on the alliance between Japan and America?
I mean, if anyone would go there, it'd be the combination of Honda and Sekizawa. I mean, if anybody was going to make that call, I would say that, I mean, it's possible. And there's all kinds of interesting subtext to be found.
Yeah. Well, and neither country makes restitution to Infant Island.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's oh my gosh, and then there's the snide. You know what that reminds me of is the snide comment from Torahata, where he jokes about Mothra giving them the power of attorney to get the egg back.
It's not them that get power of attorney. On the island, someone already has power of attorney with Mothra. It's Raymond, my friend Raymond. He's literally an attorney. So.
And I'm kind of jealous of anybody who gets to hang out with Mothra. Honestly, I have not met Mothra since coming here.
Well, I guess you're gonna really want to meet Jessica, because she apparently has play dates with Mothra and the twins.
I'm jealous. Mothra is my favorite. Mothra's my
Don't
favorite.
say that too loud. Your boy Godzilla might hear it, because Jimmy keeps telling me that this gets broadcast out on all the speakers that are scattered around the island, because they usually use those to play soothing music for the kaiju. Apparently my show gets broadcast out there. So don't say it too loud.
There's nothing more soothing than "Hello, kaiju lovers" being blasted. I can imagine
they enjoy hearing me talk about them. Apparently,
no, I listen. If I were those monsters and I'd been through as much nonsense as they've been through, I mean, they've had a lot of things shot at them over the years.
Yes.
A lot of them were presumed to be dead. Some of them are descendants of monsters that did die. If I heard somebody saying nice things about me broadcast over a loudspeaker, I'd sit in and listen to. And I think it would mean a lot.
I mean, that you got to have kaiju-sized egos to match, well, their actual size, right?
Their actual size. That's right. Yeah. Anyway, the typhoon at the beginning.
The kaiju's egos are almost as big as our mutual friend Michael's. I'm just saying.
Shots fired. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say you're wrong necessarily, but shots fired. No, I'm kidding, Michael. I'm kidding.
We love you, Michael.
We do. Anyway, where were we? We were talking.
We were talking about the subtext in this.
We did. We jumped ahead.
Yeah, we did. We did jump ahead, but that's how this show works. We go where the conversation leads. But
we're going to go with the flow here.
The thing that's interesting is the whole Brotherhood of Man theme was actually not Sekizawa's thing. That was Honda's, because Honda would make changes and additions to every script that he worked on. And so he added that part of it. Now, from what I can tell, Sekizawa was the one who was doing the I guess you could say the capitalist satire for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That was his.
That's a very Sekizawa.
It's a very Sekizawa thing. Although what's interesting is I can't remember which one of my sources it was that looked at it, but one of them actually suggested, maybe it was Khaled. It might have been Khaled. It was Khaled or I think Brothers who said that some of the characters. Actually, no, it was Brothers. Said that he felt like some of the characters had a little bit of a Takeshi Kimura influence.
Interesting.
Because they were such. They're so, especially the villains. They're just so despicable.
Oh, the villains in this are, and that's the thing, is that this is really
and also how the characters create their own problems.
Yeah, it's a very human story, and the characters. This is one of the last Godzilla films where there's really nothing outside of Mothra and the fantasy about her. There's nothing really that fantastical going on, because think about it. In the next movie, we get psychic Venusian prophetesses, and then the bad guys become aliens, and but this movie, the bad guys are crony capitalists. The bad guys are very human. They're motivated by very human emotions and motivators like greed and money. And 2 movies later, the motivation would be our planet doesn't have water. So
basically, so
it's
don't get Jimmy started about hot Venusian women. He tells wild stories, and I'm like, I don't think there's anything left, dude. You realize, Princess Salno's whole civilization got nuked, right, by Ghidorah, right? They weren't there anymore when you were there, but whatever.
Yeah, I forgot there's a whole thing with Venus there, isn't there? So I'm guessing Ghidorah, the 3-headed monster, might maybe trigger a little bit of latent PTSD.
He's been managing his PTSD pretty well for a while. But anyway,
he's been doing great. I'm proud of him.
Yeah, but anyway, So they're motivated by very down to earth things, and they aren't. I mean, Kenshi Sahara plays Torahata, and I forget the name of the gentleman who played Kumayama, but they kind of steal the show in this. They don't go nearly as big and crazy like Clark Nielsen from Mothra.
Torahata is Yoshifumi Tajima.
That's right.
Sometimes also credited as Yoshibumi Tajima with a B.
Yeah.
And those 2 guys are a lot, because Clark Nelson just oozes almost like a cartoony level of villainy. It's such a deliciously malicious performance.
Yeah.
But Torahata gets close a couple times, but he doesn't have like the Lugosi sneer that Nelson
Although
had.
there is that rather amusing scene where Kumayama calls him up on the phone, and then it cuts to him, and he's just sitting there, and for whatever reason, there is a beautiful woman tending to him, and we don't know why. And I know someone who referred to that as like the bad booze and hookers scene. You know, it's bad booze and hookers time or something like that.
Maybe it was. He could have been married. Maybe it was his wife. I don't know. I mean, something tells me that's not his wife, though.
It's probably.
What do I know?
What do I know? I don't know. I don't know what was going on with it, but it was so casual. But these actors are so good. I'm like these guys are. Kenji Sahara was a rising star, and what was the name of the other gentleman?
Yoshifumi Tajima.
Tajima was a noted character actor, and they're taking these roles that I'm guessing on paper just looked like straightforward, like you said, crony capitalists, and they gave him a little bit of nuance and a little bit of character that goes beyond just that basic archetype. You know, I love one of my favorite scenes is when Kumayama blows the cigar smoke at.
Oh yeah,
poor Junko.
Yeah.
Poor Junko.
That picture ought to be excellent, huh?
Yeah, wonderful little Junko, played by a fresh-faced 21-year-old Hiroshi Koizumi.
Hiroshi Koizumi. That's not Junko.
Oh, excuse me. I'm getting them all mixed up. But there's so many people who died in this movie.
I had a list going, and I know that sounds morbid, but just looking at, because up until, we just, at the time of this recording, a month or so ago, lost Takarada-san. And it was a few years ago that Yuriko Hoshi.
That's right. Yuriko Hoshi.
Yuriko Hoshi.
I know, Jimmy. I'm going to have to turn in my kaiju nerd card. I get it.
You have to turn in your card.
Yep.
I love her in this movie. I think that she's so great. She's funny. She's
kind of the comic relief in this.
She's got a comic relief, but not over the top. Takarada's great. He's funny in this too. Like their relationship between the two of them is kind of brilliant, I think, because she's this photographer she's brand new to the job, and he obviously doesn't want anything to do with having to train this new person, and he treats her like garbage. I mean, he's not nice to her.
They have this kind of sibling sort of relationship, and boy, do I know all about dealing with little sisters.
It's true. Very much so. But you know what? That's actually a good point. They do read, because that's one thing that they could have had them like fall gaga in love with each other by the end of the movie.
That's the interesting thing. There's no romantic subplot in this at all.
No, there's really,
it has everything else, but there's no romantic subplot. And I think it's better for not having a romantic subplot.
I agree.
It would have been too much to throw that in.
It didn't need to be there. But their relationship is great because she's always like messing up. She's got the flash on weird. The only thing she doesn't do is like leave the lens cap on. Like it's complete. She's learning. She's not inept, though, is the thing. Like I use that word, but she's not inept. She knows she wants to learn. She's new.
She's the new person. She's the
new person. But the problem is Takarada doesn't want to train her. Sakai wants nothing to do with it. He's had a job to do. He's cynical. He's got a job to do.
Which is another one of those. Which is one of the interesting elements about this, because it does have a little bit. Some would say it has a little bit of a cynical edge to it.
A little bit, but it's cynical for a purpose, because Sakai has this kind of very dry, matter-of-fact, I could publish these stories, but it's not going to change the law. I did publish these stories, but people suck and they're not going to go for it. There are nukes being tested, but nobody cares anymore. We could go to this island and try, but they're probably going to say no. He's got a realist streak to him that makes him like, you kind of want to reach into the screen and go, why don't you just try? But at the same time, you got to admit he's right. Like he's right. He's not wrong. But at the same time, he has a big heart because he's got very little patience for Junko. But at the same time, the minute he meets the Shobijin, when they arrive in Japan and say, please return the egg. Please return the egg. We come from Mothra Island. What? What? Okay. You sure that's not the Things Island? Anyway.
Oh my gosh, the dub.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. Yeah. But yeah, the next day, he and Junko and Mirai are, or is it Mira? I always get the two.
Mira.
It's Mira here and Mirai in the next one. Koizumi-san plays basically the same character. In the next movie, where he's a geologist studying Ghidorah's meteorite, but he's Mirai in that one and Mira in this one.
I mean, it's
it's better than
it's better than the multiple Goromakis that keep showing up. I mean,
oh boy, we're up to 3 Goromakis and counting so far.
4 if you include the Goromaki in Dawn of the Monsters, because that's a thing.
Oh, you're right. I'm totally counting that. Dawn of the Monsters is rad. That counts. That 100% counts.
You and I should play that sometime together.
We should. What was I saying? Oh, the day after the Shobijin show up, what is Sakai, the cynical guy? What does he do? He's at Torahata and Kumiyama's door saying, "Return this darn egg." He's got he's got that cynical edge, but he's a good man who wants to do the right thing. He doesn't hesitate.
And reporters were one of Sekizawa's favorite kinds of characters to use. They show up in all of his stuff, and he had a very positive view of reporters, which I think is very indicative of his time and place. I think people nowadays have very cynical, jaded views of reporters and journalism in general.
Reporters in movies now are, if they're not the villains, then they're the nuisance. The days of characters like Sakai and Frankie Sakai's character from Mothra, and if you want to go back to Raymond Burr in the King of the Monsters recounts, and then jumping ahead to
Mr. Martin.
Mr. Martin. I'm thinking of April O'Neil from Ninja Turtles.
April O'Neil, Lois Lane.
Lois Lane. These characters were interesting counterparts to the usual monster movie scientist, because both of them in their own way are truth seekers.
Yes.
And they are people who, at least in the hands of writers like Sekizawa, had an altruist streak to them, where they were looking for the truth, the objective truth of a situation. They were trying to do it to help people. We're not talking about mad scientists here.
No. That was more of an American trope.
That's an American thing.
That kind of distrust of science.
Yeah,
and that was scientists. We're a little scared of them because we don't know what
are they doing
could be
in those labs?
Hatching.
Yeah, and even
no pun intended.
Characters. Yeah, that's right. But even scientist characters I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name from Tarantula, the guy who ends up getting acromegalia. And he mutates all these giant spiders. I'm trying to think of the actor's name, and it's driving me crazy. Jimmy, you're up. But he is not he's not a mean character. He's not a villain at all, but the movie still portrays him as this guy who accidentally made a giant flippin' spider. So there's still a mistrust. He's not a villain, but there's distrust. But then you have characters like Serizawa.
What was that? Oh. What was that, Jimmy? John Agar?
John Agar wasn't he was the lead. He wasn't the scientist. Well, you can figure it out later, Jimmy. But yeah, John Agar was the handsome...
Leo G. Carroll? He's just looking up all of the... Okay. He's just looking up the cast Jimmy. Right now.
Leo G. Carroll. That's him. Thank you. I appreciate that, Jimmy. But yeah.
You're talking about Serizawa.
I'm talking about Serizawa. He is not a mad scientist. He's the hero of the movie. He saves everyone. I mean, through his self-sacrifice. And in the same way, you have reporter characters. And this, I mean, think about it. The 60s Godzilla movies, there were reporters all over the place. I mean, they were everywhere. I mean, there's one in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster.
Yes.
And it's the same actress.
Yes.
It's the same, but my gosh, there's so many. And then of course, the first Goromaki from Son of Godzilla, he's a reporter. I mean, there are reporters all over the place, and it's no coincidence that most of those are Sekizawa scripts.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, and I do, and again, when you end up getting around to Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, that's going to be a fun one to listen to.
That's just going to be in a couple of months.
Yep. Because I mean, I like Yuriko Hoshi's character in that one too. She's great. Because now she's in the Sakai role of the truth-seeking reporter, and she's way more out there than he is. Because all Sakai has to do is report on giant bugs and tsunamis, but she's tracking down a prophetess from Venus.
Yeah, but we're not talking about that movie.
No, we're not. But I'm jumping ahead because the themes are similar, but they're weird in that one. But
yeah, well, and it's interesting then that we have these truth seekers who are trying to do the right thing here.
Yes.
And it had to have been, I mean, one of the greatest moments, I think, in this movie is when they make their final plea to get Mothra to intervene on their part. Because they had just resigned themselves. They're like, fine, you're going to keep Mothra's egg. We could just take it, but we're trying to be nice. But, you're treating us badly. And then the Islanders are like, we don't want to have anything to do with you. And then who is it really? I know a lot of people want to make these weird commentaries on Godzilla films, particularly classic Godzilla films, and whether or not they pass the Bechdel test. And I'm like, I'm so sick of hearing this, because whether or not you want to apply the Bechdel test to this movie, Junko has quite possibly the most important moment in this movie when she makes the impassioned plea, because neither one of those guys are going to do that.
No, they had resigned themselves. I mean,
and in Japanese culture at the time, having an emotional outburst from a man at that point, it wouldn't happen.
No.
So she makes this impassioned plea to say, we need your help. The good people and the bad are all suffering and dying. Who made you God? Who made you the judge, basically? That's not you don't get to do that. And then Sakai jumps in and adds to that.
He wouldn't have said anything if she hadn't said anything first.
And then if neither of those things had happened, I don't think Mothra would have helped. The Shubichi wouldn't have been moved to do anything. They were mad too. No. Rightfully so.
No. Yeah, and again,
and trust me, you don't want to piss those little ladies off.
I laugh because it's true. Like that's why I'm giggling, because it's very true. They'll listen. You don't want to mess with anyone who has a psychic link to a giant bug. You just don't do it. But no, it's such a beautiful moment in the movie, and so much of what she says, even in the dub, they preserved a lot of it in the dub, and we'll get to that in a little bit. How great I think the dub for this is, but they give this pivotal, well, not just this pivotal, the pivotal human.
Honestly, I think it's the linchpin of the movie.
It is. It is the switch flipping moment where everything is on the table. Everything is on the line. And there is it could have gone either way. They could have just gotten up and left at that point, and that would have been the end of it. But this moment, and it is significant that it comes from a female character. It is deeply significant that it comes from a female character for a number of reasons. One, culturally, it's significant. Two, for the script, it's significant. C, there's a through line of femininity tied to Mothra. And so having a woman deliver this impassioned speech is deeply, deeply significant because of the femininity of Mothra as a character. She is very closely tied to femininity and being
which
female.
Is why, as much as people want to complain about the Criterion Blu-rays, that was what we used to watch this today, and they got the pronouns right.
They did.
The other subtitles, the dub, they've all been very confused about the proper pronouns to use for Mothra, because they switch or they use neutral pronouns, or it always annoyed me when they used masculine pronouns for Mothra. But this one, they got it right.
They got it right. They got it right. Mothra.
I honestly think Criterion's subtitles go unappreciated.
I agree. I actually use them quite. Now there are some instances where I'm listening and I can tell that something's not quite right, but the idea is communicated. I use them pretty reliable sources of research for my novelization scripts. A lot of what was in the first draft of the Mothra versus Godzilla novelization that I started a few years ago, I actually went back in and tweaked once I got the Criterion discs, because the subtitles rang a little bit more true. Mm-hmm. So yes, absolute kudos to the subtitles on that. But yes, that moment is so, I'm going to use the word profound, because I think it is profound. I think there's something about it. It's a goosebump moment. Honestly, that entire sequence on Infant Island, from the moment the Sacred Springs song starts, is just
that was the only time that Afukabe ever composed music for the Peanuts.
That was the one time. The rest of the time,
the other time it was Kozeki.
Yeah, it was Kozeki.
It was either Kozeki and Mothra, or Afukabe was recycling music from Kozeki for them, because he didn't feel like he could write the right kind of music for the Peanuts because they were pop stars. I went into that a lot in the Mothra episode with my friend. Well, it wasn't really Bex, but
yeah, it wasn't actually Bex.
But anyway, went into a lot of that with Bex, and but he did it here with Sacred Springs, and oh my gosh, that is such a haunting moment. It really is. It is
ethereal, and it's one of those, and I often say this about Ifukube.
Oh, and I just want to say. This is my favorite incarnation of the Shobajin, played by my favorite actresses to play the Shobajin, and this movie has my favorite of their outfits. They've had a lot of costumes over the years. This one's my favorite.
They're in full Gabor sisters mode here. They are beautiful in this. They've kind of ditched the island garb, the very simple island garb, and they're very borderline flamboyant, but also still very natural. Like they could blend into a flower patch, There's something about the way that they're dressed and the hair, and they're very otherworldly. It's full fairy tale now. It's full fairy tale.
This is one of the things about this. We're talking about the themes and how all of this works, and there's all of these kind of disparate elements, because we have the fantasy of the Mothra film and the more grounded science fictional trappings of Godzilla here.
Yeah. And the scariness, because Godzilla's pretty freaky.
Oh my gosh, people love this suit. People love this suit so much.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to gush about the suit.
It is a great suit.
There's
no way around it. It's a great suit.
Yeah, and I've actually, you'd be surprised how often, well, not super often, but that I have heard detractors for the suit. I've heard that.
Every Godzilla suit has detractors.
Every single one.
It's just a different number of them.
Everyone,
there's always those hipsters who just want to hate the popular ones just because.
Well, everyone's entitled to their opinion on something.
And they're also entitled to be wrong.
Like, listen, it's at the end of the day, it's Godzilla. It's a Godzilla suit. It's an arbitrary thing to get mad over, but at the end of the day, everyone's entitled to their opinion. But as for me, if I were, and again, I don't like ranking things. I'm not a ranker. I don't like putting things in order like that.
A rancor?
A rancor. Thank you. A rancor. Is there a rank? Yeah, you deserve that. Is there a rancor on Monster Island? This is a random question.
No, unfortunately.
I mean, they don't.
We haven't quite been able to get to a galaxy far, far away yet.
I was gonna say they're not from Earth, so you'd have to really go look for a rancor. Yeah. If you ever find one, let me know. But anyway,
rancor is a kaiju. Fight me.
Rancor is a kaiju. Travis, you listening, Travis? What's your opinion? Michael, what's your opinion on this?
Hey, I will argue that a rancor is more of a kaiju than Clifford. There, I said it.
Oh,
I said it, and I've met that dog, and I've met that little girl. They're very nice. He's not a kaiju.
I missed that too. I need to spend more time on Monster Island. Anyway, the suit, again, I'm not a ranking type person, but if somebody were to hold a specium ray to my head and say, pick your top 3 favorite Godzilla designs, Mosugoji, 1964 Godzilla, it's there. It's in the top 3.
Yeah, I mean, it looks.
It might be.
It looks.
Yeah,
it's a little more form fitting. The texture of the skin is incredible. Musculature looks very nice. The eyes look very sinister.
The eyes. It's the lids. It's the lids. What do it?
Yeah.
The lids are very heavier than any other Godzilla I think has ever really had, and they're also a different color. They're brown, so they stand out.
Yeah.
And the eyes just look like this Godzilla has a glare. Like from the right angle.
Why do you think there's a GIF?
Yeah, that infamous moment where he's looking down at the egg has been immortalized as a Godzilla is teed off GIF forever. You have angered Godzilla, and now he's gonna stare at you menacingly. But yes, from that angle, he straight up looks like he's gonna kill you. You're dead if you get that look from Godzilla. You know what it reminds me of? We're going back to Star Wars here. The moment in Revenge of the Sith where Mace Windu stares down Palpatine.
No, you're making him angry bringing up the prequels.
I know. I know. This was a risk. This was a risky maneuver, but I had to mention it. Nate, Jimmy, put your fingers in your ears for a second. Nate, you know the scene I'm talking about where he's fighting Palpatine and Mace Windu gives him that death stare?
Yes.
When their faces are really close together. And it's like, Mace is going to kill him. Like, this is that's the face you
Samuel L. Jackson.
That is the face you see before you die.
A purple lightsaber when you absolutely, positively have to kill every emperor in the room.
Every emperor in the room. That's a whole
which
other
I
thing.
won't do.
No, he tried. He could have, but that is an episode for another time and probably another podcast, because Jimmy would never let me rant about how much I love Revenge of the Sith on the show. I still want to be friends with Jimmy. But anyway, that's what it reminds me of. Godzilla's got that stare. He just stares you right in the face.
Yeah, and Nakajima's performance in this is one of his best.
It's top tier.
We have to bring that up.
Tier.
He was getting more involved at He was like the guy at this point. I also read that this was at this point Toho was finally acknowledging that he was the guy in the suit.
Yep.
They weren't giving him a credit in the movie, but they were telling people, yeah, he's in the suit.
That's the guy.
That's the guy.
Yeah, he was
more involved in the construction of the suit, so it would be easier for him to wear. It's still not the most fun thing in the world, but
especially when your face catches on fire.
Yeah, that happened. And I'm guessing that was an accident. They're like, well, that looks cool, so we're leaving it in there. But I love how Godzilla's like, yeah, my face is on fire.
Well, that's what Nakajima did. That's what he did. Like, the face was not supposed to catch on fire, obviously, but he kept acting. He kept going because that's what Nakajima did. You could drop him into the water by accident in the Rodan suit and he'd still keep flailing. You could blow up a miniature truck underneath his area. And his nethers,
the only time he ever got hurt on set.
Yeah, I mean, the guy literally took one
you
for the team.
You have to be one tough mofo if the only time you ever got hurt suit acting in nearly 20 years was when they blew something up under your crotch.
Right, he took it right in the Dorats. Thank you. But he the man was unstoppable. It was around this time that he actually, if I'm remembering correctly, it might have been earlier, got an offer or potentially multiple offers to do suit acting in America, but Tsuburaya begged him not to go. Please don't go, Nakajima-san.
Yeah, it's like, I need you.
he did. He said, I can't make these movies without you. You're the guy.
Nor can I make the TV shows.
And that was what happened 2 years later.
Yeah, he was on Ultraman. Yeah,
when he wasn't in the suits, he was mentoring the people who were playing the other monsters.
He was at that point. He was basically the senpai, sensei, whatever you want to call.
He was Nakajima sensei at that point.
At that point, he was the guy. He was the guy. And so he gives an incredible performance in this. In that suit, there's a weird amount of nuance to it. He poses Godzilla just right, and credit also has to be given to the puppeteers who were, controlling the tail, and it's just everything clicked.
It was just so
everything
good.
Clicked.
It was so good that it couldn't have been on purpose. You know what I mean? Like, everything about it was like, there's just as much purpose as there is like, whoa, that worked out really well, but there's no way you could have planned for it. Like his face catching on fire, or the Nagoya castle crumbling. And just
I'm
that's
sad
a whole thing.
That my face is on fire.
Oh, whatever. Oh, is that fire in my face? I guess I suppose.
Oh, a fun fact. There was actually going to be a point in the script where Godzilla just magically became immune to electricity.
Yes, that was supposed to be a thing, which makes
some sort of weird sense, but I'm glad they didn't do that.
Because
the lightning things, the lightning generators, we do have a few of those here on the island, and to keep the kaiju in line.
Oh, okay. Does it work?
Oh, they work. They work. They figured out how to make them a little more heat resistant.
Okay, that makes. Based on what happens in this movie, where they turn into noodles, I would. Yeah,
they learned. They learned.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if they had done that, it would have been an interesting stage in Godzilla's evolution in terms of his relationship with electricity. Because he gets, think about it, after this, before this, in King Kong versus Godzilla, he gets zapped by high tension wires and he turns around. He doesn't want to deal with it. The 54 Godzilla just burned that down. But this second Godzilla really doesn't like electricity. In King Kong versus Godzilla, he doesn't want to deal with it. In this one, it darn near takes him out, the final version. And the only reason it doesn't work is they overload it. And then in Sea Monster, he gets brought back with electricity because
that was because he was supposed to be he was supposed to be King Kong.
Supposed to be King Kong. And then by the time you get to Mechagodzilla, he's actively seeking out lightning so he can get struck with it.
I know it's all kinds of weird.
Showa
Godzilla is Silver Age Superman. He just makes up superpowers. That's how he do.
It's silver, or it's basically like the Fleischers just making Superman fly. It's like, well, we don't want him to bounce around anymore. Let's just make him fly. And now it's like, it's basically canon. It's canon.
So Godzilla in this, one of the best performances and presentations. Even the dang puppets look pretty nice.
Chef's kiss.
And they edit in the puppets very well too. To switch between them. Although there's a funny story because the puppet Godzilla doesn't look exactly like the suit, and I forget his name, but one of the cameramen working with Tsuburaya complained to him about how the puppet and the suit didn't look quite the same. And Tsuburaya told him, doesn't matter. All that matters is that we get the footage to tell the story. Basically, that's all. That's what's important, which illustrates a key difference between American and Japanese filmmaking. I have to say.
Does it ever?
There's a difference in sensibility, and
I love that.
But that guy was mad. That cameraman was mad, so mad. In fact, he left the set for a day and came back after he cooled off. But then, ironically, he became a special effects director later in his life and had the exact same experience with one of his cameramen. And then remembered that this happened to him as a young man.
I actually didn't know that story. That's
I got
hilarious.
that. I got that from the Rifle and Gudacheski commentary from the Classic Media disc.
Oh, then I've heard that a million times. I guess I just forgot.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, interesting. But either way, I feel like I'm learning this for the first time. I love that commentary, though.
Yeah, it's a great comment. That's a pretty.
Even though I apparently forgot that chunk of it.
Apparently, but so Godzilla's great. Godzilla was great in this, and the editing of the special effects. But we also need to talk about Mothra.
Yes,
because that thing is a puppet, and it's amazing. They did reuse one of the puppets from Mothra 61. That was the one with her in the cave.
Yes.
That was the one that they had used for the city attack.
Yeah, it flies a couple times, but never in shots with Godzilla because the scale is wrong.
Yeah.
But that
puppet is so lively. It's so full of life, and its head is always moving. The legs are always moving. The wings are flapping really
wiggle.
Well. Yeah, it moves and gyrates in just the right way. So, when she's attacking Godzilla, it's moving a certain way. But then when she gets hit with the atomic ray, she flinches.
Oh, I hate that. Oh, it's so sad.
Yeah.
That because it's combined with the great sound effects, which she already had. But you take that and marry. Oh my gosh, that final battle.
It's 5 minutes long, but my goodness, I have heard fans complain about that battle. And they especially complain about the one with the larva. But I'm like, what do you want? You want 70s Godzilla? There's 70s Godzilla. You want ridiculous monster wrestling? You got King Kong versus Godzilla.
Those movies exist.
Yeah, those movies exist. That's not what this is going for.
Dude, you try acting in a 200-pound rubber suit against a puppet on strings that has no real mass.
Yeah, although I do feel like, how people complain about how modern action movies are way too fun about zooming in way too close and doing shaky cam. Well, you kind of get that here. But I think there's a purpose for it, though. It is meant to disorient you.
Exactly. There's something frenetic about this fight, and that's in part due to the music. Again, I'm evoking Ifukube-san here. His music is...
If we're going to talk about Ifukube for a second, did you hear the story about how Honda ticked him off?
I think I know this story. Tell it.
Because when that's the shot of Godzilla poking his head above the mountain. Yes. Ifukube said he didn't compose music for it, but Honda wanted music. But he said, I don't think it needs music. It's fine without it.
Godzilla's imposing enough without this music.
He's imposing enough without it.
Yeah,
well,
that's a
then
great story.
without him knowing, Honda, because that if you watch the movie, there is because Honda snuck in a stock music cue that Fukube had done and didn't tell him until the premiere.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
at the premiere of the movie, and he heard the music cue in that scene. He just glared at him, and then Honda said, "Sorry."
Yeah, that's a great story. Actually, and I'm going to be honest here, as much of my spirit animal as Akira Ifukube is, I honestly think that moment of the head popping up over the hill was better with the dun 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 dun. I think it worked there.
Yeah, but anyway, we're talking about the
battle.
fight. The fight. Yeah.
The battle. So it's very frenetic. It's very animalistic. And if there is a quote unquote weakness to it, I don't see it as necessarily a weakness. But if you were going to nitpick it, the trade-off to having Mothra move so fast and frenetically is that Godzilla moves way too fast.
Yeah, Godzilla does move way too fast. Although there were some people who were saying, I think Rifle and Gotocheski went so far as to say that battle was Tsuburai's greatest achievement, basically.
I mean, honestly,
especially with how it was done and the different techniques that are edited throughout it, and the way that they shot it, the puppet and Nakajima in the suit almost looks like stop motion at points, and
yes,
because they had to film it very fast and then shoot it even faster, and just like all of this stuff that they had to do. It's a multitude of tech. This was the first Godzilla film to use the optical printer.
The old Oxberry 1900.
Yep, that Tsuburaya had managed to acquire, and apparently there are only 2 of them in the world. The other one belonged to Disney.
Disney
of course. Disney
Yes,
owned everything and still does.
Even back then. But yeah, the Oxbury was a real marvel, and you can see the difference. I mean, look at the optical matting in King Kong versus Godzilla. I'm thinking specifically the Faro Island scenes with people running in the foreground while Kong is in the background. It's very rough. It serves the purpose. None of that takes away from how wonderful that movie is. But the optical matting in Mothra versus Godzilla is a complete rethink. It is night and day. The integration between the special effects footage and the human characters is so much more seamless. I mean, when I was a kid and Godzilla's head came up over the hill and the guys who were getting on the boat panic and run away, that scene was on the back of the tape that I rented. I believe it was on the back of the tape that I rented from my library when I was a kid. And that's how I first saw this movie.
Yeah, actually, I should have mentioned this. That's why I had you on for this episode, because this was one of your first Godzilla films.
This was the first one I saw from beginning to end.
Yeah. Wasn't the first one you saw. But it was
no,
the first
Godzilla 2000. Godzilla 2000 will always be, in a lot of ways, my first love when it comes to Godzilla, because that's the one that opened the door, and it's still so deeply, deeply important to me. But after I didn't get to finish it, and I've told the story elsewhere, so I won't go through it, but I didn't get to finish it. It was at a friend's house. I went home. I told my mom how great it was. And being the great mother she is, she threw me in the car.
I've met your mother. She's a wonderful woman.
She is amazing. She is amazing. She fostered, she's not a Godzilla fan herself, but she fostered and, just supported my love of this stuff. And she drove my 6-year-old butt to the library, and I fumbled through all of the, everything in the G section of VHS tapes. And because my library was my video store growing up. A lot of people have great video store memories. I do too, but a lot of mine are the library. And holy crud, there's the scimitar tape of Mothra versus Godzilla with that great artwork.
Weird artwork, but
the artwork was very strange. It was done by a guy named Peter Bollinger. I think it's Bollinger. I'll have to look that up, but his artwork is so bizarre, and Mothra on that cover looks like a bee.
Yeah, but the whole thing's weird. But yeah, so you took it home, and that was the first one you saw all the way through. So
fell in love.
Yeah, fell in love, as you should. Yeah,
yes.
But yeah, so this Mothra, it's so incredibly well done. It's so full of character, and it's a testament to the art of puppetry. It really is. And
very much.
Yeah, because that puppet gets so much emotion out of it. the determination to defeat Godzilla, the compassion, the motherliness. I mean, good Lord, how many a kaiju kid didn't almost cry watching Mothra just fall right on top of her egg, cradle it, and just die right there.
It's rough. Listen, the good, and this is something, I don't know if I've ever articulated this before, but thinking about it now, I'm going to put this out into the world. One of the true hallmarks of a good puppet is when you can watch it die and believe it completely.
Yeah.
This is something I hadn't really ever put like out in words, but this is the kind of crazy, stuff I think about. But like, think about King Kong. That's a puppet, and you can feel his soul go when he dies, and it's a puppet. Mm-hmm. You can, when Mothra lands on her egg and her head starts to slowly drift down, and they kind of turn the light in her eye off a little bit. You can feel her soul leave her body in that moment. If you're really like into the movie in that moment and it's gotten its hooks in you and you're that invested, if you watch that scene, you're going to get misty-eyed. You can feel her life go, and it's a puppet. It's a puppet, but you don't think about that while you're watching it. In that little box in front of you, that TV screen, you're looking at a real giant insect, and that is an achievement because there's not even any, like, Nakajima was inside Godzilla. So you could argue that Godzilla, while a suit, was alive. There's no one inside Mothra. It's a puppet.
It's a puppet.
But it was every bit as alive as Godzilla.
Yeah.
And it's
incredible. It's incredible what they did. And then relatedly, and this is the part that really ticks off certain fans because they're just, they need to get over themselves as far as I care. But yes, I said it. But then the larvae pop out, 2 of them. And that was a little bit, apparently it was Sekazawa's idea to have 2 of them.
Yeah.
So we have twins, which only made sense when you have the twin fairies. So we have these twin larvae, and then it's the twin larvae who defeat Godzilla and save the day. It's a true underdog story at that point. They are completely outmatched, and they win because of basically superior tactics. That's the only reason they do it. Yeah.
They use the terrain to their advantage. They're basically like
advantage. One's a very sneaky ninja-y because it goes into a cave and it's like it starts spitting the web, and they hide patiently and wait for Godzilla to stop throwing rocks. And they're like, more web, and
It's a great battle, and I was only recently made aware of the fans not really liking that, mostly because they don't like that Godzilla lost to worms, which I don't know. I never thought, it's something I never would have thought of unless somebody had told it to me.
I wouldn't have thought of it either because
never would have thought of it.
It's David and Goliath. I mean, you're going to be mad that David beats Goliath, and it only makes sense in terms of the story. Godzilla's the villain. And
Godzilla's the villain.
He's he's the outmatched villain in this.
Don't you want to see the larvae win? Like, isn't that who you're rooting for? It's an unlikely matchup. It is literally 2 worms versus a giant radioactive dinosaur. By all accounts, Godzilla should have beat them, but you're not supposed to be rooting for Godzilla in this moment. He's still no. And I think that's part of the quote unquote criticism here. It doesn't really strike me as like complete criticism. It's more of an opinion thing. But for a lot of fans, I actually, this is a pattern I've picked up on. A lot of fans who don't like that they're fans that grew up with the heroic Godzilla from the 70s or some of the later 60s films where he's a good guy, and then jumping back into a full color spectacle with Mothra where suddenly he gets beat by worms and he's the bad guy. It doesn't click right. Especially if you're young and you see it, it's like, well, he's supposed to be the good guy. A lot of people go into that movie with a preconceived notion that Godzilla, A, is the hero, and B, even if he's not the hero, can't be defeated. But at this point,
unless they were watching some of the initial home video releases where they flip-flop the names in the title.
Oh boy, yes.
Because it's actually supposed to be Mothra versus Godzilla. She gets top billing, but
she gets top, just like King Kong did.
Yeah, but a lot of those early home media releases, they switched the names for some reason.
That's the one I saw when I got the movie. It was Godzilla versus Mothra, but the print still said Godzilla versus the Thing. But even then, Godzilla's name is still top billed.
Which was just, that was a whole to do because this was the first.
That's a whole
This
thing.
was the first Godzilla movie released by AIP. They didn't think Mothra was that imposing, so they decided to, because they were masters of sensationalism. They did exploitation films and things like that. So they came up with, admittedly, a brilliant ad campaign where they called it Godzilla versus the Thing. No, not in reference to the 1951 science fiction film. And
Godzilla versus James Arness.
Yeah. So they could, hide the fact that it was, who his opponent was, and they made this infamous poster of Godzilla basically fighting a question mark, although behind that question mark looks like some sort of Lovecraftian horror. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there were 2 American posters released. One of them had a big question mark, and then the other one had like a big billboard that said, "What is the Thing?" And all of these create like, "What is it? How much terror can you stand?" Like these very sensationalistic postery things. But my favorite is the one with the big billboard that's covering up the monster, and their entire thing was, let's hide the monster and get people to come see the movie because they want to see what the monster looks like. But all you can see are these, again, like you said, Lovecraftian tentacles.
Yeah,
but
it's so incredibly
it's bizarre.
Weird.
But if you dig, and this is one of my favorite fun facts about this movie, if you dig, the Italian version of the poster doesn't have the censor, so you can actually see the whole monster.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and it's I don't even want to necessarily describe it. Just Google Godzilla Mothra versus Godzilla Italian poster, because I don't think I could do it justice. It's basically like a big tenticular octopus.
Yeah, it's truly
mouth in the middle. It's crazy. But if you ever wondered growing up, if you happen to be listening, you want to know what it was, then that's technically kind of sort of it. But anyway, fun fact.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's nutty. Oh, and for anyone who wants to know, yes, Titra, however you say it, I did the dub for this, and so that was a thing, and they did it in a way that probably nobody would get away with now. They would fake Japanese accents, and because they were trying to be authentic.
Yep, that was a common practice at the time. If you listen to the dub, I'm not going to sit here and rattle off the whole cast, but one fun fact is if you listen carefully, you can hear Peter Fernandez's voice.
Yes.
He was a common Titra voice. You probably have heard him in everything. He's probably most famous as the voice of Speed Racer.
Yes.
And he's in, he's in everything. Ultraman, the original Ultraman AIP version. But Titra was, dubs tend to get the short straw, especially these days, because of the relative scarcity of the dubbed versions, thanks to a combination of trying to get the more authentic Japanese version, but also Toho kind of wanting to almost bury some of these American cuts a little bit. Like the most recent home video versions of Mothra versus Godzilla do not include the dub. They don't include. They also
don't include the American only scene, which has never been released on home media in Japan.
Yeah,
the Frontier missiles, and I can't get a straight answer as to why it was removed. I've seen several different stories. I saw one that said Takarada told, not Takarada, producer Tomoyuki Tanaka said to take it out. I heard one that said that Honda took it out. It was scripted by Sekizawa, and they filmed it, but they took it out because Honda thought it would make the Japanese audience feel uncomfortable to see American warships taking action on Japanese soil. And another one said that it was done exclusively for the American cut because AIP requested it. I can't get a straight answer.
So the straight answer, as far as I know, is that the entire idea of it being commissioned by AIP is not true. The version that I believe to be the accurate one is the one about making the Japanese audience uncomfortable with the idea of American missiles striking the Japanese mainland. It's believed that Honda might have been involved with that decision. Some of my sources just say Toho thought that. So it might have been a higher up decision. But either way, the sequence was filmed for the Japanese version with the intent of it being in the Japanese version. But how exactly it ended up exclusively in the American cut, like Toho didn't ship them. They shipped them a version with that scene in it. So why it's still there, maybe the decision was made to not cut it from the American version because they just didn't like the cultural and historical significance wouldn't have meant as much in America. There was a decision made in there somewhere, but it was not shot specifically for American audiences.
Yeah.
That's a long-standing story.
Yeah, but it's just weird because unless you can find any of the out-of-print editions of this movie in America, you're not going to find that scene anymore. And it's kind of a big deal. I mean, it's a good couple of minutes long. It's full of special effects.
Great special effects, too. Lots of explosions, more Ifukube music, a couple of familiar faces. Like Harold Conway, all of those expats that were in Toho movies, and half of them were like lawyers.
So it's tragic that it's almost lost media at this point.
It's weird because a few years ago,
which is why I'm glad I have made sure that it's in the vault.
Yes, I mean, I still put again. There's a good chance, like you and I watched the Japanese cut. I mean, I have a heck of a flight to get home, and it probably won't be a couple more days until I get there. But when I get home, or maybe I'll hang here a little longer and watch the dub. Just kind of sit in the screening room. I mean, I might do that, but here's a fun fact before we move on. Some clips from the Frontier missile sequence were actually used as stock footage in another AIP movie. A year later, called Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machines.
What?
I'm not going to just
wait. What? Wait. What?
That's all I'm going to say.
What?
I am not going to. I'm not going to describe this film to you. Mind blown. That's why you invite me on the show, because
I need a minute. My brain exploded.
Take a knee,
I need a second. I'm reconstituting. Just give me a second. A second. All right. Just a second.
Have you not heard of this?
What? It's one of your favorite movies? Of course it is, Jimmy.
Of course. I'm familiar enough with this movie to know that checks out. I can see it being a Jimmy thing. But yes.
Apparently you're going to pick that the next time that me and Jessica have our movie night, aren't you? You jerkwad. Anyway.
Listen, there's nothing I can say to prepare you for what Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machines is. Just if you can track down a copy, it's a good movie night, and you'll get to have the pointing at the screen moment where you see the Frontier missile sequence and you're like, that's Tsuburaya footage in this movie about bikini machines. Just, there you go. That's the weirdest fun fact about this movie you'll hear.
Band name. You know it is.
I hope so. And if it's not, it's going to be mine. I'm going to take it. I'm just letting you know that exists. It's all I'm going to say.
No, Mr. DiManna, I expect you to play.
Man, we're going right back to the Bond stuff.
We're going back to the Bond. Yeah. So, okay. But yeah. The dub in this is remarkably good. Remarkably respectful. I think and I've talked about dubbing before in a previous episode. It should actually, and it was at the time, considered a badge of honor. And it still should be considered. Well, it was considered a badge of honor back then. And I hate to break it to you people, but it makes it more marketable. There's a little bit of pushback against it now. People would just prefer to just get the movie subtitled. They don't want to have to deal with a dub, and I get it, but it's just more people would be willing to watch it if it was dubbed.
I agree. Listen, if this movie did not exist, and of course it would have been, I'm not arguing that there's ever a point where this movie would not have been dubbed. It was going to get dubbed, but let's just say in a weird timeline that it was never dubbed. 6-year-old, if I had discovered the movie subtitled at 6 years old, I probably still would have been fascinated by it, but it wouldn't have been as accessible. If I had discovered it younger, then it wouldn't have been probably very accessible at all. The fact that so many children grew up and continue to grow up with all of these movies, a lot of kids see their first Godzilla movies before they're reading. And I know a lot of adults that don't want to sit and read subtitles. So imagine having a 3 or 4 year old and you want to put an episode of Ultraman on or something, or a Godzilla movie, whatever you see fit to show to a child at whatever age as a parent. And they, it's what you said. It's more accessible.
Yeah.
Having the dub there is important, and just not even just for them. That's a huge aspect of selling the movie. But nowadays the dubs are really kind of sliding into this obscure zone that is it's really sad to see, not just as a nostalgia, like for my own personal nostalgia watching these movies, but they are a crucial piece of these films' stories and their history. They're these, and you know, whether they're re-edited or just straight dubbed, it's another version of the movie. And this movie in particular has a really fascinating story to tell vis-a-vis the dub, because the dub is good, the edit is respectful. There are only a couple of brief moments cut out of the film for the American version, like Kumayama getting shot in the head. One of which was
Kumayama getting shot in the head, and then it actually they didn't edit the soundtrack, so it actually makes a music cue later make a little bit more sense.
They just put in a shot of Godzilla getting closer and Kumayama going, and that's it. There's a brief moment where they're promoting.
It was a remarkably gruesome scene, I might add.
Yeah, it's really gross.
Yeah,
like, that entire moment where he's just punching him.
Honda even thought Kenji Sahara wouldn't want to do it because he said it'll ruin your cool guy image. And he's like, okay.
Okay, dude, can we for a second? Can we talk about Kenji Sahara? At the time we were recording this, we are a couple days out from Kenji Sahara's 90th birthday.
Yes.
The dude just turned 90 years old. He is still kicking, a living legend. So he is still in a movie that we were talking about this before, where most of the people in it and behind the scenes have passed away.
Yeah, and I have to ask, you want to share with everybody, what was it like for you? I know this is a little off topic maybe, but what was it like for you watching this movie? I'm guessing for the first time since Takarada died.
It's a surreal experience. It wasn't as hard to do as I thought it was going to be. I'll be honest. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to react. I knew I would be fine. I didn't think I would have to turn it off or anything like that, but it's very, very surreal. Because as long as I've been alive and, on this planet, not just a Godzilla fan, but alive, I have shared this planet with Akira Takarada. We all have, because he's been around forever. And he is such a pivotal, this omnipresent force within these movies. He's so great in this film. He's great in every film he was ever in. And again, I've talked about this elsewhere, but I got to meet him several times. He remembered me. I had a lot of really amazing moments, just like being around him, talking with him. I ate dinner with him. Just a lot of really, really, like, everybody who's gotten to meet Takarada-san. I mean, I'm not special in that regard. Everybody who's met him has their own Takarada story. Nate, you have a great story about him signing 2 things. Like everybody that got to meet him that was lucky enough has a story, or many stories about how he took the time to be an amazing person. And there's something about putting in this this one in particular, because this movie, when he gets out of the car at the site of the hurricane, that's the first time I'd ever seen him ever. So this movie was the first time I'd ever. I mean, I didn't know his name. Yeah. I didn't know anything about the guy. I was 6 years old, but I was captivated, and it was surreal. I had a moment when he first got out of the car and I first saw him where I got a bit emotional just thinking about it, but I chose to proceed with the rest of the movie, not from a perspective of loss, he's gone now, but from a perspective of celebration and what his role in that film and just him in general meant to me. Mm-hmm. So I guess the answer would be surreal, but celebratory in an odd way. And it's all about perspective at the end of the day. And I chose to watch it as I always watched it, because this is one of those movies where I'm however many years it's been since I first saw this movie, well over 20 plus years since I've seen this movie, going on 2.5 decades. And whenever I put it in, this is a movie that without fail, every time, transports me back to 6 years old. I watch it. It just has an effect on me. It makes me 6 years old again every time I watch it. And I had that on my side when seeing Takarada in the film as well. And that was a comforting thing as well. But yeah, I miss him. I miss that man. He was Talk about a class act. Takarada. Wow. Whew. Yeah.
If you need a moment,
who's cutting onions?
Yeah. I was gonna say, if you need a moment, it's okay.
No, I'm all set, man. But
okay.
Whew. Yeah, it's good. It's good to see it, to be able to see these films and his performances. And honestly, like when we've had multiple discussions on air and off about Takarada and about his roles, and his role as Sakai actually doesn't really get talked about as much as some of his other roles. Obviously, Ogata and the bank robber. I mean, there's so much to celebrate.
There's a lot that people in the United States haven't seen. The guy was an established star at this point. Was making 7 movies a year.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, he was everywhere. He was doing so much. He was such a powerhouse, and I don't think there's a single genre the guy didn't tackle. I mean, a few years before this, he was doing Jidaigeki films, and he was doing comedies.
And this was the first time he had worked with Honda since Half Human.
Yes, that's true. Somehow their paths hadn't crossed in 9 years when it came to movies. And
Half Human.
Like, it's half human.
Oh, Half Human.
That's certainly a movie that exists, isn't it?
It is, and it's kept way in the back of the film vault.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's an extra dusty corner. Yikes. Interesting flick. Hey, it's got Akira Takarada in it.
Episode 7 of the film vault, people.
Episode 7, which if I recall correctly, when you and I did our anniversary stream for the first year, I called that episode out in particular as being a strong one.
Yes.
For the academia that was put into it, and the care with which you discussed its more controversial topics. I still think it's a great episode. I mean, and you've been doing this show for what, like 20 years now? Feels like
if you divide that by 10.
Yes. We're coming up here on it'll be 3 years this year, right? Later on.
Yes, it's weird to think about.
That's a long time to be on an island.
3.
It's a long time to be on an island watching monster movies.
Hey, it's not the only thing I do around here, but
no, I missed the whole getting shot into space thing. That's kind of crazy.
Not necessarily something I'd like to relive, but
at least you got to hang out with a couple of buds. That was nice.
Yeah.
And you got to riff a movie in space. I mean, you and I are both big Mystery Science Theater fans. So that had to be kind of cool.
This is true. This is
true.
True.
We're off topic, though.
Yes.
We're off topic. We got to get back on topic.
Yes. Takarada.
Yes. I mean, is there anything else in particular about the film that we didn't call out?
In true Marchand fashion, I over-prepare, and I still have gobs of notes that we could talk about. All kinds of things. I mean, I only poured over every possible book I could find in the Sekizawa library about this, and from my own personal collection. So, there's a lot we could go into about how, Mothra as a representative of the natural world is opposing crony capitalism, and which I got from Japan's Green Monsters, and Brothers talked about how Godzilla shows nature's way of maintaining. Oh, the larva defeating Godzilla showed nature's way of maintaining balance, and it's not mankind's technology that does it. The egg is a sacred object, but it's exploited for profit. Miura, Sakai, and Junko are mind, body, and soul, which is a very common dynamic of a trio of characters. There's a lot of stuff we could go into that
I'll tell you what,
haven't.
Yes,
one of my favorites being, according to Peter H. Brothers, he said the theme of this, which is a very Honda idea, is do one's best despite the odds, because there is no hope without effort.
Wow. Yeah. That's a great, and honestly, that really does ring true. The characters in this movie, a lot of the effort involved in their like trying to get Mothra to help them after the horrible things that have been done to the island. They didn't get the egg back. There's a lot of humble pie being consumed in this movie.
Yeah, quite a bit of it. And Arakawa said that remind everyone, just so everyone knows, remind everybody who Arakawa is.
Arakawa was one of the geniuses behind the scenes doing special effects work.
Yes. And he said that, the original Godzilla film was Godzilla from the human's perspective, and this one was the weakness of humanity as seen from Godzilla's perspective. So there's so much going on in this. I know we were saying this this won't be too long, but that's the thing. This is not breaking new ground, but there's a lot to go that we can get into with it.
There's a lot of you want to talk subtext? I mean, there's so much. I mean, we talked about nature, we talked about crony capitalism, and then there are interesting religious layers to this movie.
Yeah, Mothra. We talked about not Bex, and I talked about that in the Mothra 61 episode, and there's a bit of it here, where she sacrifices herself for the good of others. And it kind of gets a resurrection with the larva, which goes back to Buddhism as well. Mm-hmm. And one of the most interesting things I found was Mike Kopner said that the track Mahara Mothra, when the twins are singing it, makes the audience feel like, quote, a privileged witness to a monumental event and a mystical secret seldom revealed, end quote, when that's played when the Mothra are born, when the larvae are born.
I agree. Watching that especially as a kid, I felt like I was I was watching something out of a fairy tale, and I would very much argue that there is a straight up resurrection in this. I mean, it could be argued whether maybe the soul of the Mothra that had passed on might be in there.
Yeah, there's a running theory among fans and among the scientists here on the island, for that matter, that Mothra reincarnates.
Yeah, and even if it's hatchling. Even if it's not confirmed, there is something to be read into that. I mean, you can read into it from a mythic sense. She could be seen as a kind of phoenix. Yeah. That rises from her own ashes. There's also, I don't think it's a coincidence that in this movie, in other movies they change this up, but in the Showa continuity, this is the only time we see it, but in the Showa continuity, there's never an egg hatching while the mother is still alive.
No.
So in the Heisei series, you only ever see the egg and the adult, and you don't see any of the reproductive cycle, just the evolution. In the
the other thing is, Mothra does not reproduce like a real, like more common moths.
No, there's no giant.
Yeah. They don't have giant Easter eggs.
Yeah, they just kind of make the egg. Who knows how that works? But maybe the process is similar to Rebirth of Mothra, where she just kind of summons it, because there is that question of how an egg that big happens. There's some biological roadblocks there, but anyway, in the Mothra trilogy, you see the larva and the mother interacting, and then you see that again in Tokyo SOS.
That scene.
You want to talk about
that's a heart-wrenching scene in that movie.
Childhood trauma.
Oh, poor Mothra Leo. I'm just saying.
Oh, that breaks me every time I see it. Actually, I watched that movie when I was like maybe 8 or 9, and it wrecked me so bad I didn't watch it again until high school.
Yeah, I can understand. I can understand. But that, like I said, that should tell you something about this. There's so much to get into. There's a lot of cultural stuff, a lot of historical stuff, a lot of stuff behind the scenes related to this. There's just so much.
And not only that, but the fact that all of those things, all of that so muchness, however you like, all of that, all of it is a means to a damn near perfect movie. This movie treads that line. It is so I'm not going to say perfect, because there's no such thing as a perfect movie, but
this is pretty darn close. There are reasons why this is considered to be one of the best, if not the best, of the sequels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's hard to touch that original 1954 classic.
Yeah, now that's a masterpiece, And
I really do think this one deserves to be taken just as seriously.
I agree. And listen, you're talking to a guy who loves every single one of these movies. for their own unique reasons. I think they all have something really wonderful to offer. I love them all to death. But if you're gonna take the word masterpiece and apply it, you can't just throw that word around. At least I don't think it should be thrown around. There's a weight to it. So out of all the whole Godzilla series, I don't know if I'm necessarily the be all end all of like what Godzilla movies should be considered masterpieces.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you are the mastermind behind the Godzilla Novelization Project.
Ah, nice plug, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, but you only delve into. You're one of the only people who is not part of like the upper echelons of the fandom who is diving as deep into these things as I am. So much respect.
Thank you.
I am totally not a gatekeeper though, but
no. No. But I
know a gatekeeper. But
we both do. We know a couple.
You might even call him a Lord Gatekeeper. I don't know.
You might, but he would probably gatekeep you for saying that.
That's
but
very Inception-y, and I don't. Anyway, we were saying
that's a lot, but all I'm saying is like, if you're gonna take that word and you're gonna throw it out there, like. If there was a list of movies that I think absolutely like Godzilla movies that I think you can safely throw the word masterpiece on, the original is one, and this is one. That's what I think. And I mean, you can, again, that's all. It all really comes down to a matter of opinion. There are a lot of people who would say that GMK and Shin Godzilla belong on that list, something like that. But I think
maybe the occasional weirdo wants Space Godzilla to be on that list.
Oh, you mean me?
I don't know if we can be friends anymore.
There it is. No, but I think that without any kind of like major backlash, I could reasonably use the word masterpiece to describe this film. And I think that even people like, I think people would be like, nah, totally, that's a masterpiece. Yeah. And I know there are some people out there who, for various reasons, don't enjoy this one. It's kind of slow, I think, for people who want faster paced stuff. There are a lot of people that don't like Mothra.
They are very sad people.
No, again, everyone's entitled to whatever opinion they want. But for my money, I think that everything that they set out to do for this film on a technical, artistic, objective level, and I said it before, it shines. This movie there's something about it. It just works so incredibly well. Everything comes together so incredibly well. I did a big list in the beginning. I'm not going to repeat it, but it's just so good.
It is.
I can't say enough good things. And here's the last piece of personal perspective that I'll offer. Growing up, with this being the Godzilla movie I probably watched the most when I was really little, 6-7 years old. And then it took me a few years to find it because my library sold the copy. And I didn't. I know, it was terrible. So for a big chunk of my my like later elementary school and middle school years, I subsisted on a couple of Showa films, Godzilla 2000, and the 3 middle Heisei films, and that's pretty much it. And I tried to hunt this movie down. I was obsessed with finding this movie again. And I thought I found it but it turns out I bought Battle for Earth. Because
that was the one that they had to retitle because of the weird switching because they thought of the names.
They thought it would confuse people, and I was one of those people. It got me, but I found a new Mothra movie that I'd never seen, so I wasn't upset about it. But all those, like many years later, I think I finally tracked down the classic media copy of the film when I was 13, 14 years old, something like that. And after that, and it was around this time that I was starting to not just rewatch the Godzilla films and get into them and find new ones that I hadn't seen, but I was studying them. I was learning about them. I was researching them. I was reading David Khaled. I was reading Steve Reifel's stuff. And
Khaled was referenced in this episode.
Yes, my Godzilla academia god. I love that man. He's great. His book, Critical History and Filmography, is my Godzilla Bible. I reference it to this day. And all that to say, years later, when I finally got got it back. I got the movie back again, and I watched it for the first time in forever. And then I started doing research on it. All throughout that time, I had no idea that it was so respected. I had no idea that it was so venerated by critics, by fans, by academics within the kaiju community. In Japan, people in Japan, I had no idea. All I knew was that it meant a hell of a lot to me. It really, really clicked with me. It resonated with me, and it still does. And like I said, I can put this movie in and be 6 years old again. But I had no idea that it was considered such a masterful film, and depending on who you talk to, one of, if not the best of the sequels. So I'm not going to say it was validating to see this movie so loved and say, oh, my favorite Godzilla movie is the best Godzilla movie. No, that's not what I did. But there was something kind of interesting about that. Just all these years later, finding this movie again and, just refalling in love with it, and then finding out that like it's almost universally beloved by people. That's pretty cool.
Except for some of the critics who reviewed it when it first came out.
There are some funny reviews for this movie.
Yeah. Whenever I look at those, I'm like, did we watch the same movie? I don't think we watched the same movie. No. You just don't get it, do you? But yeah, you really encapsulated it. I don't have really much else to add to that. If it's not a masterpiece, it's darn close to it. It has every reason to be as venerated as it is. If you are a Godzilla fan and you haven't seen it, you need to. This is essential viewing.
Highly, highly recommended.
Yeah. Heck, if you only see one Godzilla movie in your life, watch this one.
I mean, honest to goodness, it's hard to recommend anything over the original, but some people are just not going to resonate as strongly with the sadness and the metaphorical weight of the original. But if you want a Godzilla movie that really kind of encapsulates the best that the series has to offer, it's got the classic feel, it's got a scary Godzilla that you can also kind of sympathize with a little bit if you kind of tilt your head sideways. It's got a great monster fight. It's got the music, the directing, the characters, yada yada, the whole list. It's a good one. It's a good. It got me into the series, and now I'm literally nesting in Godzilla. Like my home.
I've seen what your room looks like.
Yes.
I've seen what it looks like. Yeah.
I will be excited to get back there. I do have a long flight over the Pacific.
Yeah. But first, we need to wrap things up here.
Yes, we do.
All right, Danny, before we can get out of here and go cover that egg ceremony, I guess if you want to call it that, the send-off, we need to take care of a very important and exciting segment of the show, one of my favorites. Do you know what that is?
Why, I do believe that is the Patreon shout-out. Go
Travis Alexander,
Michael Hamilton,
me, Daniel DiManna,
Eli Harris,
Chris Cook,
Bex from Redeemed Otaku,
Damon Noyes,
The Cellcast,
Eric Anderson,
Ted Williams, Tofu Fury.
Oh, the adrenaline! You feel it?
Oh, I like it. It's almost as good as the caffeine I have every day before a broadcast.
Oh, that explains a lot.
You think all of this is natural? No, this is caffeine assisted. Although when I'm not on caffeine, people think I'm on caffeine. So just imagine how scary I am on caffeine.
I've seen.
Yes, Jimmy, that is every day on the show.
That's what I was gonna say. Like that sounds familiar. I've seen that before.
I was gonna say that's a little weird. It's like you and Jimmy share a brain or something.
That would. I don't know if I could handle Jimmy's brain. No offense, Jimbo, but you got a lot swimming in there. I don't know if I could handle it. I think the only person who can handle Jimmy's brain is Jimmy. But I don't know. Hey. Oh, okay. I mean, I appreciate the compliment, but I don't feel like I carry the same, like, I'm trying not to use the word baggage, experience.
That's a good way to put it. Yes. Like, all kidding aside, Jimbo and I, we understand each other, and it's nice to get through an episode without like anything weird going on with Jimmy and one of the guests. That is very good, and I'm glad that he's mellowing out with the guests.
Yeah, and again, he and I think is it possible that I'm the guest he gets along with the best?
You might be on the list now, for sure.
Okay. I know the last couple times, again, like the last time we didn't talk at all, and then the time before that I had a bet going to keep his mouth shut. But I think we're all back to normal. I think we're all back to normal, and it feels mighty fine.
Yes, it does. And you know what else feels mighty fine? The next couple of episodes. In fact, this was not exactly planned, but June is Damon Noise Month on MIFV because I offered to have him do the next tentpole episode as part of Kaiju, our theme for this season. And he also sponsored our next MIFV Max episode, and it just happened to fall into the same month. So for the first time ever, 2 episodes in a row, same guest. Now, I've done multiple tentpole episodes with the same guest, but never have we had 2 in a row with the same guest. It's crazy. It's a madhouse.
We got our Planet of the Apes reference in for the episode.
If you're, you know what, you should talk with the not the board, but maybe with Mr. Winter or whatever, and see if they can start carrying Grape Juice Plus here on the island.
You know what, I should. Cameron is I can call him Cameron, right? He's not gonna cha-ching me onto the next island.
I don't know. I mean, he's kind of a divisive figure around here. I'm just saying.
He is. It's weird because I don't want to say anything rude. I have to kind of respect the guy a little bit, but also I should probably keep this to myself. I don't know if he's listening.
Yeah, you probably should. Just to be safe. Be safe. But anyway, like I said, Damon Noise Month unintentionally. So, our next episode, well, there's no other way to put it. Our next episode is going to be as big as a battleship.
Well, that narrows it down.
Because Kaiju continues with the giant claw.
Oh, a masterpiece of cinema. One of my favorite monster movies.
Then you're going to be disappointed that the Claw, who has been affectionately named Crazy Bernie around here, he's not on the island. He's on the beta site. He's on the beta site because that's where they keep the kaiju that they're unsure if they're going to be popular attractions or they're just too weird and they don't know what to do with them.
Who in the world wouldn't come to this island to see the giant claw? That would be your biggest attraction.
Just like I told Travis and Michael in the last episode, I don't make these decisions.
I know.
I just work here.
This is rhetorical. This was rhetorical. It wasn't directed at you. But the powers that be out there, can we please get Beaky Buzzard on the island? Come on. Beaky Buzzard, my man.
I mean we need to do the size comparison with an actual battleship.
I feel like this needs to be something that's like, okay, so, we're going to leave here and we're going to go do this egg thing, but, maybe next time as like a supplemental kind of a podcast thing, maybe something for the patrons, we do something where we get the bird here and we do an actual size comparison and we either film it, record it in some way.
Yeah, it's very important scientific research. We must confirm if Crazy Bernie is in fact as big as a battleship.
The evidence would seem to point to yes, but it has not been tested. The scientific method has not been employed. And frankly, if you ever do that, invite me back because that movie is one of my I want to say guilty pleasure, but I feel no guilt while watching it. I love it. I love that ridiculous movie.
To a Thanksgiving kaiju movie, I guess. For us Americans who celebrate Thanksgiving.
And there is a pretty...
Because he is a big turkey.
He is a big old turkey, and there is a pretty obvious reference to that movie in King of the Monsters 2019. There's a very obvious reference to it.
Apparently I missed it.
Remember the scene where the pilot ejects and Rodan just chomps him?
Yes.
There is no well played, Mike Doherty. Well played,
and Rodan was chasing a flying battleship.
A flying battleship,
and he was as big as it.
I'm just saying, it's the evidence is there. Also, I don't know. I feel like we need to get Rodan involved in this somehow. I don't know.
Well, possibly.
Maybe we can do a measurement with Rodan in a battleship, and then the claw in a battleship, and see which one is bigger or the same size. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities.
Yes. Yes, Jimmy. I'm starting the drinking game early.
As well you should.
I can't tell you how many times that line is used in the movie. I have done the research.
I think it was like a dozen and a half.
It's a dozen.
Yeah, it's like a lot. It's a lot. I can't wait to listen to that one. That's going to be a fun episode.
Well, and with Damon, it's going to be hysterical.
Oh, I can't wait. That dude
to be hysterical.
cracks me up.
Yeah,
I always enjoy
it. And then, like I mentioned, we're getting to our next MIFV Patreon-sponsored episode. And because I said in a live stream, I need an excuse to talk about this movie, and Damon wanted to continue his weird penchant for ridiculous kaiju movies with puppets, we're getting the first ever musical on the show.
Really?
Yes. Little Shop of Horrors.
No. I love that movie.
Yes. The is it 87? Is it 86 or 87? But the mid-80s movie musical based on the stage show, based on the Roger Corman movie.
It's a long lineage. Directed by Frank Oz.
Directed by Frank Oz, starring Rick Moranis and Steve Martin. It's just all around great. And he has specifically asked, interestingly, although I'm going to watch both in preparation because that's what I do, he has specifically requested the director's cut that goes full tilt kaiju at the end. Because
kaiju, the end of that one it is not a happy ending, but it is such a spectacle. They put so much work into it. Oh, it's so great. I feel like the last time I sat and watched it, and I watched that ending, I watched the director's cut, I actually had to put the theatrical cut back in and let that one play to like cheer myself up, because it is such a downer.
Well, I have seen the stage show.
That's how it ends.
That is how it ends.
Yep.
And I haven't seen the Corman version yet. I know. Turn in the kaiju nerd card.
Turn it in.
Yeah, but from what I understand, that's how the Corman version ends as well.
Yeah, neither version is particularly uplifting. But dude, the musical version, the film, I mean, the musical itself is great. I've seen it live. It's a great showcase of practical puppetry, and the movie is one of the best showcases of practical puppetry. So I can't wait to hear that episode too. It's going to be a solid month.
Yes. No, Jimmy, I don't think it would be a good idea for us to sing the entire episode. Besides, that's an opera, not a musical. There's a difference.
What if the patron paid you to do it?
Then they're going to have a lot of blood coming out of their ears. So,
well, at that point, it'll be on them. So it'll be their fault.
This is true.
Yeah.
But now we come to the all-important segment. Shameless self-promotion. I'm just going to throw it out here like I always do. Please join MIFV Max on Patreon and get perks like the shout-out starting at just $3 a month. Also, check out my 2 spin-off podcasts with 2 lovely, amazing people, Michael Hamilton and Travis Alexander, who you heard on the previous episode of this podcast with Henshin Men, which is about Henshin heroes, and The Power Trip, a journey through the Power Rangers franchise, which we name-dropped a little bit earlier. I'm done. What do you got?
Well, first of all, I'm going to piggyback on what you said. Everyone needs to go listen to the Power Trip right now. I'm addicted. I've been addicted since that show started.
And you don't even watch
episodes.
Power Rangers.
I've seen a little. I'm working on trying to get more into Power. It's been a long time since I've watched any Power Rangers. Watched a lot of Sentai, but I'm still. What I'm hoping to do is hoping to use the show and the inspiration that it gives me to start my own Power Trip. Where I'm gonna plow through all of it myself and watch everything I didn't see.
Well, if you can plow through the franchise fast enough, maybe you can be on the show.
You know what? I'll take you up on that challenge. I'll see what I can do.
Well, good luck. We're already about 12 seasons deep, so
you are a lot of seasons deep. But yeah, the show is great. I've learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know, just because I haven't seen a lot of Power Rangers, so I've loved learning about it.
Yep.
It's fun to listen to. It's very informative.
Yes, and if you're used to the academic deep dives that you get on this show. Same thing happens on the Power Trip. Yeah. I mean, you got a taste of it when Michael and I did our Spotlight Patreon episode on Green with Evil. There's even more of that on the Power Trip itself.
Yeah, it's a lot. Henchmen, I really don't give a crap about. That's fine. But
you're a liar.
I'm joking. That's not true. That's not true. Great shows, all under the Kaiju Ramen Media banner.
Yes,
it must be said. But anyway, my shameless self-promotion, the part that I'm always horrible at, as mentioned before, for anybody who hasn't...
if I wouldn't risk looking rude, I'd just say, Danny, sit down, I'll do it for you. But...
there you go. But no, this is something I must do this. This is a journey I must take. But for anybody who hasn't heard my name floating around out there in the kaiju chunk of the ether of the universe, my name is Daniel, and I am the author and creator of the Godzilla Novelization Project, a ridiculously in-depth, over the top, perhaps foolhardily ambitious, but very, very fun, ongoing serialized project wherein I am adapting all of the Japanese Godzilla films into full-length novel form and sharing each chapter and eventually all the books once they're done, free with fans. I charge nothing for legal reasons. I can't. But yes, my gosh, I just crossed the 4-year mark of working on this project, and it's been just incredible. All of the doors that it's opened for me. I've been able to come on to shows like this one and other shows and just nerd out. It's opened so many doors. It's been wonderful. But
you get to do firsthand research on the kaiju.
Yeah, I've actually, and again, I need to spend more time here actually researching them, because if you're going to write a book about Godzilla, like little details, like how many spines does he have? You don't really get that from watching the movies. Like you gotta see him in person and try not to get stepped on. So I'm going to take you up on that, but I don't know. I feel like Godzilla wouldn't step on me, right? Maybe I don't know.
He's generally pretty chill.
That's good to know.
Until you shoot at him, then he's not.
Well, I'm not gonna shoot at my childhood hero.
Or you pick on his boy.
I'm not gonna do that either. I know better. I saw what happened to Gabra. I know better. But yeah, if reading the Godzilla movies sounds like something that you're interested in, check out Godzilla Novelization Project.com. And you'll also find Godzilla short stories there. You'll also find Godzilla timelines and blogs and all kinds of crazy stuff. If you want to follow my shenanigans and get your daily recommended dose of kaiju-related dad jokes, you can
you follow the official Toho Godzilla Twitter.
Oh no, man, that's a weird account. I'm trying to be nice, but they do some weird stuff. But you can definitely follow them, but also follow Godzilla Novelization Project on Twitter. That's pretty cool. You can find me at Danzilla93_GNP on Twitter. You can face a book at me on Facebook. You can email me at GodzillaNovelizationProject@gmail.com. I apologize for how sore your fingers will be while typing that. It's a very long email. But yeah, if you have feedback on the books,
have autosave.
This is true. But yeah, if that sounds cool, check me out. Hit me up. You want to talk about Godzilla? Show me art you've drawn. I mean, anything. Like, let's have a chat about this stuff. Let's connect. Let's nerd out. Let's have some fun. And also, I have to mention I have a Patreon. So if you really like what you read,
of which both Jimmy and I are proud patrons.
Proud patrons of the GNP, which really, really does mean a lot. It's always really, really humbling when people put their, like, they enjoy what I do to the extent that they give me their money. Like, that just is so, I can't even describe how that makes me feel. It's so special. But if you want to support the project with $1, as little as $1 a month, you will get early access to chapters and blogs and updates that other people don't get at all or until later. I also host a Patreon exclusive podcast called Monster Musings that is only accessible to patrons of the GNP. And again, that is a perk you get every week for as just $1. $5 gets you some extra stuff. $10 gets your name in the book. And I'm hoping that within the next year, I will be able to offer merchandise through Patreon as well. T-shirts, stickers, lanyards, coffee mugs, whatever I can slap the logo on. Trying to get a good gauge for what people would wear and what people would use right now. But anyway, yeah, that's me. I have a lot of other stuff going on. I write for Kaiju Ramen Media. You can find my articles and various kaiju-related ramblings on kaijuramenmedia.com and in the actual magazine. If you want to read the original Godzilla novelization from 1954, written by Shigeru Kayama, translated into English for the first time, check out Project Kayama at wordpress.com. That's a project I worked on a couple years ago with my good buddy Robert Montserrat. He did the art and the translations, and I did some more translations and then edited it and put it all together, made the website. That was a labor of love. So I'm kind of all over the place.
Yes.
I'm doing a lot of crazy stuff and I'm just loving it so much that I have the ability and the freedom to engage with this community in fun ways. It's just been such a blessing. So yeah, I'm out of things to say. Shameless plug over. We have an egg to go see. I'm so excited. Can you tell I'm excited? I finally get to see Mothra's egg. Well, I'll try a little bit harder. Trust me, you will be able. I'm giddy. I'm such a big Mothra fan. Let's do this.
All right,
let's do
Jimmy,
it. Let's go.
Cue the credits. Thank you for listening to the Monster Island Film Vault, a podcast produced and hosted by Nate Marchand. If you want to join the discussion and be heard on the show, we'd love to hear from you. So email us at feedback@monsterislandfilmvault.com. Our website is monsterislandfilmvault.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Monster Island Film Vault, and on Twitter, where our handle is @TheMonsterIsla1. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, and TikTok. Follow Jimmy from NASA on Twitter @NASAJimmy and our many other colorful characters using the links in the show notes. The podcast logo was created by Tyler Souls from TylerDrawsComics.com. Our theme song is Wanderer on the Offensive, live edit by B33J, Sarax, Juan Madrano, and Nonsensical Lexus, which is a remix of Counterattack Battle with the Colossus and The Opened Way Battle with the Colossus by Kootani from the video game Shadow of the Colossus. All film and audio clips belong to their respective copyright holders and no infringement is intended or implied. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and or Podchaser to spread the word about the show. You can also support us by joining MIFV Max on Patreon. The Monster Island Film Vault is a Moonlighting Ninjas media production. Sayonara!
Nate? How did we go the entire broadcast and not mention the awesomeness that is Skeleturtle or Jiro the Eggman?
Oh no! Well, we go live in a few minutes, Jimmy. We're gonna need great shots of the egg, so make sure your camera drones are ready.
Ready to love me, right?
Sure, whatever.
Oh, Jessica, I'm sorry your brother...
Pseudo-brother.
...is such a jerk.
Hey!
Teasing Nate, but seriously, no one can or should argue with your movie star good looks, Jess. The apple fell far from that tree.
Traitor.
Thank you, Danny. I'm glad somebody around here isn't blind.
Well, if they are, it's by your beauty.
Don't you have a girlfriend?
Yes. Oh, hush, Nate. You know I'm not that kind of guy. That's not how I meant it to come across, but come on. Somebody has to help build Jess's self-esteem, because it sure seems like you're not gonna do it.
Trust me, she doesn't need help.
Want me to give you another bloody nose, Baka?
For the last time, it was Michael and Travis on Kaiju Weekly who joked about Pamela Anderson's boobs being kaiju. I just made the meme.
You should have known better than to offend this princess.
I repeat, Danny, she doesn't need help.
Yes, I do. I don't have a boyfriend.
What about Gary?
Oh, him? Well, I did ask him to work on another case for me.
Another one?
Yeah, well, yeah, I want a pet.
There aren't any rules or laws or whatever on the island against that.
Except I want something big and strange.
Like a kaiju?
Hey,
Good Godzilla, Jessica.
not him. He's too big and mean.
I could make suggestions.
Save them for after the eggs send off. I'm meeting Gary to talk about things afterward.
Hey, let me through. I must see
Wow,
Mothra's
security
egg.
has gotten tighter since the last time I was here.
The Shobajin refused to visit the island anymore without extra security to complement their bodyguards.
Yeah, I can't blame them after that kidnapping attempt a few months ago.
Which I foiled. You're welcome.
That was something.
I'm Mothra's biggest fangirl.
It's
I must be
still
there when
weird
the
to
child
think
has
there's
her.
some weirdo Mothra-worshipping cult now.
Are you, talking about the Church of Mothrianity, or the crowd here to see the egg?
Yes. Drones in position, Jimmy? Thumbs up. All right. Count us in. We go live in 5, 4, 3...
Get out of my way, heathens!
Baka!
Nate! Wait, are we live, Jimmy? He's nodding, hello, hello, kaiju lovers, Daniel DiManna here, filling in for Nate Marchand, who is, diving deep into the, history of sea monsters. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, Danny.
Yeah, he's probably gonna get me for that one. Anyway, and this is Monster Island's tourism director, Jessica Shaw.
Hey, everyone.
We're, we're coming to you live from the, christening. Yes, christening of Mothra's newly laid egg before it is shipped to Infant Island. But there's a bit of commotion. A, raving Mothra fangirl has broken through the security line to reach the egg. For our audio-only listeners, I'll describe what I'm seeing on the intrepid Jimmy's camera drones. The girl is standing on the barge in front of the egg, surrounded by EDF mutant security brandishing laser guns.
On your knees, or we'll shoot.
You mutie maggots can't hurt me. I am.
The girl throws off her clothes, to reveal a fuzzy white costume and long blonde hair under a white helmet with feather-like antennae.
Silkworm, a transformed of the Church of Mothrianity and the Mahdi Priester's chosen Doomweaver. Mothra's child will be our liberator, so says my master.
Fire!
Damn! The bug lady just spit some sort of web fluid on the mutants. Now their guns are stuck to their hands, and some are suffocating in panic with web on their faces.
I can't watch this.
Wait, Miss Shaw, where are you going? Oh my gosh, Silkworm just pounced on a mutant and is licking the webbing off his face?
My webbing is a delicious sap, absorbing your body's electrolytes.
Oh god, oh gross. Oh boy. Anyway, who can stop this wicked worm?
Step aside, dandy man.
Can it be? Yes! It's Monster Island's very own magical girl, Crystal Lady! She just ran past me and is charging up the boat ramp towards Silkworm.
With Mothra's blessing, I will smite you!
Don't you dare invoke the name of our goddess.
I don't think she's your goddess, Silky.
Blasphemer!
Silkworm shoots a string of web at CL.
My wand!
She yanks CL's weapon from her hand.
Here's web in your eye!
Ho-ho! CL ducks the webby loogie and charges at Silkworm. Whoa! She jumps over the bug lady and flips in midair, making a perfect 3-point landing.
Did I just do that? Of course I did that. Thanks, Ozaki.
CL dashes to her wand and picks it up.
Lightning!
Oh no, Silkworm just splattered webbing on CL's mouth and pinned her to the wall with more webbing. Our heroine can't move. The villainess struts to Crystal Lady, takes out her wand, and flicks the webbing off CL's mouth. Oh god.
Yummy. What's it feel like having your bodily fluids sucked out through your pores? Finger looking good.
Mothra, help me.
Beg the goddess for salvation, you heretic. She will only respond to those she loves.
Oh my. Godzilla. Mothra Leo is flying overhead, folks. He's leaving a trail of sparkles behind him. Is he here to save his unborn sibling?
Leo, eternal guardian beast of greenery, bless me with your power that I may be the midwife to your kin.
Freaking weirdo.
What is that? What? A tiny ball of light is emitting from Leo as he soars over us. No, not a ball of light. It's a tinier version of him the size of a human. It's flying towards Silkworm and CL.
Come to me, little Leo. Come to...
Ha! The little Leo just zapped Silkworm with antenna lasers. And now he's melting the webbing restraining CL. She drops to her hands and knees in exhaustion. I can't blame her. The little Leo wraps a wing around her. Aww.
Thank you. Nemo. Is that your name?
Nemo?
Nemo? Like Mini Mothra?
Oh, CL's patting Nemo on his fuzzy head.
Good boy. Good boy.
Oh, no. Silkworm stands back up, and she's peeved.
Traitorous worm! I'll mummify you and feed you to the hatchling.
CL forces herself to straighten to her full height and picks up her web-covered wand.
Not today. Mimo? Sicker!
Whoa! Holy crap! Mimo is glowing white-hot and shooting like a bat out of hell right at Silkworm. He hits her like a missile and launches her over the deck and way out to sea. She did it! She did it! The egg is saved! We...
Hello, people of Monster Island. I am Mod Priester Herzog Jerry Nachwalter of the Church of Mothrianity. My transformed Fräulein is escorting Mothra's offspring back to our homeland to liberate us from our enemies. Our own people have despised and rejected us, for we are followers of she who devastated Olisika so many years ago. They are fools. Her attack was a warning for them to turn to her for salvation. Reject your material wealth and be metamorphosed by joining Mothra in blissful oneness. The goddess herself is merciful. She has birthed for us a savior, Soon we will be freed by the wings of justice. Luna, let us celebrate in a shower of your sparkles.
Yes, Master.
Masura, yeah, Masura.
Sorry for that interruption, audio listeners. That was the first time I've gotten a chance to see that wackadoodle Mothra dude. Leave it to him to make a Mothra wing mask look gaudy. He made the mistake of assuming victory, and, you know what they say about assuming. Oh, Crystal Lady! It's so good to see you!
It's good to be seen.
We've never met before, but I'm a huge fan of your superheroics. You make it look easy, and if I may say so, beautiful.
I know, right? I'm glad somebody notices.
Your new little friend here is quite the guard dog.
Mimo? He's the best pet. No, the best companion a magical girl could have.
Hey!
Gary?
Gary?
Has anyone seen Jess? Hey, hi!
Oh, a kitty!
Whoa, a big moth!
What's with the cat there, Gary?
I got her for Crystal Lady.
Well, I have Mimo now.
Oh.
I guess she's yours now, Gary.
Well, it seems that way.
What'd I miss?
Oh,